Greetings, beloveds. In the name of the Lord, Jesus, Yeshua, Yahweh, God, the One. Yes, the age-old controversy between God and Jesus and the understanding between the two. For example, a lot of people don't believe. You're just trying to make sure that, well, the weather's been very pleasant. But a lot of people don't really realize that Jesus is God. They don't understand what that concept is all about. And the thing is that he proclaims it. And this is the source of all the controversy within the world. I mean, the cross is a stumbling block. Jesus is a stumbling block. The Jesus, Yahweh Yeshua connection, Jehovah Jesus connection as one of John 17 seems to be a source of trouble, like a source of discontent among people that are seeking God. Let's just put it that way. Certain cults believe that Jesus is not God. They believe he was a man, and indeed he was a man. He's no longer a man. He had the authority to do what he did because of the Father. And at the same time, he's known as the Word. At the same time, he's known as the Creator, because the Word is what creates. And it's a mystery, because what is the Word made of? But sound. So the Word as sound creates the stars and suns and planets and the infinite infinity. So thus a mystery. Jesus' pre-existence is also a stumbling block. How could he pre-exist? Anyway, so the confusion between God and man in the one vessel is something that only the Father can really show you, because intellect will tend to tell you that Jesus is a man. He was a great man. He is the go-between, I suppose. He's the way to salvation, the way, the truth, and the life. No man comes to the Father except through him, of John 14:6. So he is certainly then, in that case, okay, just in that capacity. Jesus is a way, not a man, but a way of life, or a way to life, or a way out of a cursed situation, which is fallen humanity. And we can argue about that too, about what constitutes fallen humanity. I mean, to the Satanists who are deluded and psychotic, they can look at things backwards. So to them, the humanity is just fine. People just need to do it their way, and then they'll be happy. Of course, their way leads to their own destruction, which they don't see. And when people point it out, they get mad, and then they crucify Jesus again. And it goes on. It goes around and around and around. So much so that the humans on this planet are trying. The leading edge of science is putting all its stock in life extension technology and in nanomachine technology. I'll just put it that way because it's probably gone beyond that in spiritual technology and how to wed a vessel that doesn't give out, or an eternal vessel, something that can be made and remade and morphed and reformed and exist eternally, that could also have a soul and a mind. The problem is that the people working on the technology don't have souls. Where the technology comes from, don't have souls. A soul is lost in the process of playing God. So much so that in the guilds of high science, which used to be the alchemists and traditions going back thousands of years, there are initiatory rites that basically cancel any connection to God. If you want to play with the big toys, with the stuff that's light years advanced of anything that we know of here and is kept secret, for the purpose of life creation, where man becomes the progenitor in his advancement of the New World Order, the 1,000 points of light, and let's not get caught in that jargon. Let's just say the order of man as a divine being, in apotheosis, but also existing in a form that has the power to exist eternally on his own terms and throughout the galaxies and throughout the firmament, throughout the infinity. Inherent in that, man has been in contact with beings that are other dimensional, and so much so that there's been interdimensional travel and portal travel and time travel, and all those things have been going on and kept out of the public view, obviously, for this race, or this race before the extinction event upon the earth, which is what they believe, to go ahead and have lift to the stars and to beyond. But they need vessels that can handle it. For example, having a vessel that could go at a certain speed or velocity that would not then suffer from physical harm. The ability to fold space, to transfer from point A to point B instantaneously. These start getting into the realm of angels and spirits and spiritual, mind-boggling stuff. But it's also science, in the sense that it's because we can't understand it. It becomes, if you will, how should I put it? It becomes spiritual and leaves science when it becomes a matter of faith, and no longer is it a matter of understanding the technology. But it's all, you could put it all in the category of technology. It's just that you need a ultra-dimensional physics to understand it, which is also available. The thing is, then why aren't these cyborgs and hybrids and things walking around? And I would contend that they are walking around, some of them. But that the technology is not figured out yet. In other words, they still need human DNA. And so humans that are the unwashed masses, let's say, you and me, the people that are not in the club, basically are here to be harvested for their purposes. And when those purposes are no longer needed, they believe that humans are inferior and should be like life forms that are, in other words, this life here leading to entropy and death, life and suffering and death. Anything that's involved in that is an inferior being, including animals, plants, oceans, the planet, the lack of control over asteroids and comets and different things, is unacceptable. And there is technology there to be able to get beyond, out and above and beyond all of that. But then there's still this need for the human soul. So the humans are like these containers of souls, and you've heard that before. In the UFO lore, the aliens think that we're souls and they're trading in souls. Yes, so the Bible talks about trading in souls in the book of Revelation. And it regards the fall of Babylon, that these people would also trade in souls. But I believe that means trading in souls. In that context, it means trading in human slaves. not necessarily in what I'm talking about. It's the same thing, though. I mean, trading in souls, people will put a price on someone's talent, let's say, or someone's ability, someone's genetic makeup, and they'll have a price. There'll be like a price of their soul, and there'll be trading going on in the background, and it's a big mystery. But you'll see like the best and the brightest, or the movie stars or the actors, and then every once in a while one will be sacrificed to their gods, which these are the people of the obelisk, of the pyramid, of the Mayan pyramid, of the Egyptian pyramid. Wherever there's a pyramid, it's the same gods, same thing. The serpent god in Middle America, in Central America, the pantheon of Egyptian gods, and so forth and so on, and all the other gods, and the gods are what we would consider to be angels or fallen angels or whatever, but they're very much technological. And when you see the ruins of the earth and you see pyramids underwater, because obviously when there's a pole shift, then there's a great flood and the water goes everywhere. Here in New Mexico, we live in an area where was underwater, and there are fish fossils. This was the ocean here in the last cataclysm, and there'll be another cataclysm, and then the ocean will move somewhere else, and that happens. The deck will be reshuffled, and it's all part of God's timing. And even this story that we're in now has a beginning, middle, and end, and it also includes a beginning cataclysm that destroyed everything, and where the oceans moved, and then there was a great flood that's been recorded in much lore, and then there'll be an end of, not only the end of the world or the end of Babylon world, if you will, the world system, which is the economic system of the world, but actually the end of this configuration and dimension of the three-dimensional space-time continuum that we're in here on the earth, to where there'll be no stars and suns and any of that. In other words, there's a place where there is no firmament anymore, where that in essence becomes obsolete. In other words, life goes on. You've heard about this in the book of Revelation, when it talks about the New Jerusalem and how the Lord makes all things new, which is another name for Jesus, who is Yahweh, which is He makes all things new. He's going to make a new firmament. He'll just do what He wants. People buy into, oh, there's the firmament, it's forever and permanent. Not necessarily. This idea of a firmament, of these spheres circling around each other, and gravity and physics, and this is one idea. This is an idea. This is a manifestation, but not necessarily the only manifestation. So, in chapter 21 of the book of Revelation, it says, "And I saw a new heaven and a new earth. For the first heaven and the first earth were passed away, and there was no more sea." Do you think that people can handle that? "And I, John, saw the holy city, New Jerusalem, coming down from God out of heaven, prepared as a bride adorned for her husband. And I heard a great voice out of heaven saying, Behold, the tabernacle of God is with men, and will dwell with them, and they shall be His people, and God Himself shall be with them and be their God." And this is, of course, the ultimate fulfillment of the entire story. "And God shall wipe away all tears from their eyes, and there shall be no more death, nor sorrow, nor crying, neither shall there be any more pain, for the former things are passed away." And the former things include the physical universe as we know it. And He that sat upon the throne says, "Behold, I make all things new." So this is Jesus. And he said unto me, Write, for these words are true and faithful. And he said unto me, It is done. I am Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end. I will give unto him that is athirst of the fountain of the water of life freely. He that overcometh shall inherit all things, and I will be his God, and he shall be my son. Overcoming means to overcome Satan. It doesn't mean, it's great if you can overcome your flesh. That's, you can fight it and, and tamp it down and crucify it, and that's fine. But that's not what it means. He who overcomes, okay, who is the God of this world, okay? What is the law of this world? It's Satan. What are all the people that are involved in the governments of the world? They're Satanists. What about all the corporations, all their logos? They're tributes to their god, Satan. If you like Lucifer, make it more personal, that's fine. Okay, Satan is really more of a title. But at any rate, it's not a name, it's a title, but, the adversary, in other words, this is the one who challenges God and has his own system. So when you come to this planet, it is Satan that if you resist, the threat was very clear in Mick Jagger's song, Sympathy for the Devil. He'll lay your soul to waste. He'll kill you. No virgins on planet Earth. So overcome means to overcome the world. The world means Satan. That is exactly what the Word of God means. I hope that people understand that. As I've gone through life, I've realized that, I've assumed a little too much. I've assumed that people understand this. What's very clear, what's very obvious. But they don't. It's amazing. Everybody has their own idea. But then it goes on to say that, the famous line, he that's unjust, let him be unjust still, and he which is filthy, let him be filthy still, and he that is righteous, let him be righteous still, and he that is holy, let him be holy still. God has dispersed his creation. He's created his creation, and some are these, and some are those, and whatnot, and they're going to remain what they are. People are who they are. Whether you belong to the Father or not is a predetermined thing. The churches hate this message because the truth destroys their ministries. All of them. All the way back to the Roman Church and beyond, the truth destroys all their ministries. Every single one of them has Jesus overturning the money. Once you mix money in, which you need to build buildings and have ministries and have missions, and but it doesn't matter how good your intentions are. Once you bring money into it, it's over. It's ruined. It's done. It's finished. It's apostate. That's just the weirdest thing. And behold, I come quickly, and my reward is with me, to give every man according to his work shall be. I am Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end, the first and the last. We're going to get in that in just a sec, but I'm going to go ahead and go to the next page here in my... Try not to rip these pages. Thank you. Blessed are they that do his commandments, and they that have right to the tree of life, and may enter in through the gates of the city. For without are dogs, and sorcerers, and whoremongers, and murderers, and idolaters, and whosoever loveth and maketh a lie. In other words, yes, the people of the obelisk are the people of the lie. The people of the world who believe that Satan will take care of them, which he won't, but they believe that, and for no reason. There's no proof of that anywhere, by the way. These are called dogs and sorcerers and whoremongers and murderers and idolaters, and whosoever loveth and maketh a lie. In other words, the people of the world, and using all these metaphors, they're all sorcerers, they're all whoremongers, they're all murderers. They're what these are, the Bible refers to in the Old Testament, especially in the Psalms, and then later with Jesus, is they are called the workers of iniquity. That is their title I don't know how many times that's repeated throughout the Bible, but many. The workers of iniquity, in other words, those who use iniquity as their way, as that is their way. They are workers of iniquity, and what are they working? They're working it to their advantage. They're working it as a lifestyle, as a way to live, or if you like, the Rocky Mountain way. It amazes me to see a guy in his 60s singing about the serpent eating his tail in that manner. But what are you going to do? You can lead a horse to, it's ridiculous. There's no hope there. There's nothing I can do about it. It's not my problem, okay? I'm not going to speak and explain everything. It's just not my problem. If people want to embrace, look, they know that everything is reversed through the mirror. They know that. They just, I guess, take comfort in having an easier time on the earth, okay? And so you can't really get mad at anyone for that, and we're not. It's just, you like to tell somebody if the plane's about to crash to the mountain, hey, here's a parachute, but what are you going to do? You can't do anything. Then they're angry. It's prideful. How dare you say, oh boy, okay, it's not about me. Not about me. But the truth really, really irks the people who are dogs, sorcerers, whoremongers, and murderers, idolaters, and whosoever loveth maketh a lie. Murderers, all are murderers, anyone who serves the devil, because the system's based on murder. So whether you actually do it or not doesn't matter. You are a murderer, because you are, any one of us who is not separated by the Lord in a legal manner. It's a legal issue. If you're not separated by him, because you can't do it yourself, then you, before that time, or without that separation, you are also a murderer. Even though you've never technically murdered anyone, you are as much responsible as every murder from Abel on as everyone else. We are collectively responsible for all of it. And when the Lord separates you, you're legally, because, well, we'll get into that. We'll get into Jesus and what the whole thing was there. But it's Jesus had to be structured the way it was, because otherwise, legally, technically, logically, justice-wise, and every other way, man is still indicted. The indictment's still there, even if it's not fair. No, it's not fair. I'm not saying it's fair. And I know the argument. Who would want to worship a God who just chastises all of humanity and all the generations, future generations, which may not have done the awful things? It's like, well, look in the mirror. We are conflicted. We are broken. We all have the capacity, and we all do evil. And we try to do good, but the evil, a lot of times, it's just, we're blinded by our desires, our passions, and when we step on other people, it's just, there's no way you're going to be able to do it on your own. There's just no way. I, Jesus, have sent mine angel to testify unto you these things in the churches. I am the root and the offspring of David and the bright and morning star. So that should put an end to the whole idea of Lucifer being the bright and morning star, and or the usurper attempting to be the bright and morning star, or whatever. Jesus is the bright and morning star. Lucifer, Satan, whatever, it's through the mirror, supernatural creation of a world that is through a mirror and through an illusion and a prison. And therefore, Satan would be the bright and morning star. Therefore, the sorcerers would be the way and the truth and the life. Therefore, death would be the lovely thing. Pain and suffering would be a beautiful thing. In fact, some of the social engineers are even writing now in their journals how great it is that people are suffering more now, because the sense of American being on a high is anathema to the way things should be. People should be a little bit depressed. People should be in a funk. People shouldn't be happy about things. They're much easier to control that way. So they worship pain, not their own, but for other people, and they feel that by foisting pain on you with the way it is today, which I know is extremely hard to live right now. Well, not for people that are zombified, but for people that are actually awake and aware, this would be the hardest time in human history psychologically, because you're being conquered. You know, it's the same as if the Romans had come into your town and pretty much, you know, took over, and anyone who gave any back talk had their throat slit. I mean, it's, you know, you're basically facing something like that. Something that's as old as time itself. They conquered you from within in Europe and America and the West and the whole world, really. It's not just in America. This is Babylon. This is the second Babylon. And they intend to put together a global, one world Babylon, you know, banking, science, a scientific dictatorship in terms of dictating what kind of food you eat, and, well, the chemtrail, all those kind of things, space travel, all that, you know, a dictatorship of technology. And eventually it will be a dictatorship of genetics. Inferior genes go, and there'll be a eugenics is a big program. In other words, cultivating the race to make the human race the best it can be by eliminating the bad and bringing up the good. And to do this, they must raise children, or the species, and have them, you know, not natural born, but they must create them and create artificial means of birth or creation to make sure that they control the genetics in each being. And if one doesn't live up to a certain standard that they were created to be, that they would be eliminated immediately or killed. You've heard people talking about killing children after birth. It's a thing that the abortionists really, really want to get this in, where up to 3 years old you can kill your child if they are proven to be inferior. Meaning, well, let's say they're retarded, or they're, you know, have some kind of a handicap that's going to be a burden. So there's a group working right now, and fervently working, to try to get post-birth abortion legalized as the next step. And the impediment are, of course, Christians, people that have common sense, for example, people that are normal, would be the impediment. The people that advocate abortion, when you see celebrities doing it, you must understand these are very stupid people. The milieu of Hollywood, by the time a person gets to be 21, their IQ is about 80, because of all the it's not, you know, I mean, they can think fast and do their lines or whatever, but what happens to people is they get indoctrinated in you know, the global pedophile network, or whatever you want to call it, Satanist, pedophile, homosexual thing, magic, black magic, witchcraft thing that's all kind of, you know, one. And even then I couldn't categorize it right, but you have, you know, it's a thing, you know, most people don't even know what it is. Most people have no idea what it is. It is a supernatural matrix. So by the time one gets in, once they're done with you there, your IQ is about 80. You are dependent on, for example, the collective. If I took an actor, almost any actor, somebody, a celebrity, okay, someone who's made it via the collective, and then they're tweeting all their liberal tweets, and, you know, all the, you know, we hate this, we hate the, not knowing that, you know, the people they're yelling at are equally brethren, you know. It's not about politics. But if we took one of these collectivists away from their collective, and we just put them by themselves, took them out to the wilderness, and they would have to be there for a while, they would go through what I would call a heavy-duty withdrawal. I mean, it would be very, very painful, because the collective perceives as a collective. In other words, my brain, if it's wired into everybody else's brain, we all perceive as one brain. Now, if you take me away from that, And you put me on my own with my own thoughts, which I haven't been used to thinking because I've been part of the collective. The collective will tell me what to think. As soon as you do that, I'm going to have a crisis. I'm going to probably want to kill myself. I don't think I would make it very far. You see, it would definitely be a crisis of consciousness, a crisis of where I would feel suddenly extremely guilty because suddenly I would see what I've done and what it's all about and what I've been a part of. And that, they can't afford that. So when there's celebrities that tend to want to break away, what happens to them? There's a car accident, or, there's an overdose. Remember Heath Ledger? Remember how that was never solved? That seemed to me to be a typical sacrifice. But I mean, it was all covered up. Most of these kind of murders and things, and these eliminations of certain celebrities, most of this is covered up right away. And most of it, you've also noticed, those of you who are on the conspiracy blogs and whatnot, you see how the connections of these things go all the way to the top, right? All the way to the top. But at the same time, the whole system remains hidden. This is Mystery Babylon we're talking about. It's nothing more, Hollywood is nothing more or nothing less than Mystery Babylon. It's a mystery because those who aren't in it can't see it. Yet, if you're in it, it's just so visible and so obvious. And if you're in it, then everyone who's not a part of it, you can see them very clearly. You know you're involved in a supernatural thing, but you don't do anything about it because you're hoping that, you'll be able to make a mark by being in it. And then you figure you'll settle out on it later. You'll get your soul straight and everything else straight later once you've gotten your fame and your fortune. And everyone thinks they can win that game. And, of course, we've seen that nobody wins the game. And humanity is the loser. And, so I have some predictions to make. But I want to just... There was a rhyme and reason to all this, my friends. And that is this. Well, we go on. We go on. And it goes on to explain the New Jerusalem in chapter 21, and then chapter 22 is the finale. But it's a different physics. It's a physics of light. We're in a more dense form at this point, and, they're trying to fix it. And, of course, they're very aware there are beings of light walking around. There are beings of light that are just glowing light objects, which are in their control, too. And but they can't control it. I mean, there's obviously beings that appear as beings of light. We might just call those angels, if you will, in a certain form, that are helping them to achieve their occultic dreams. And when we say occult, it means hidden. All of this is hidden. Mystery Babylon is hidden. This whole system is hidden. This intergalactic situation is hidden because it's based on, we'll never go to the moon again, Obama said. Let's not forget some of these things. We'll never go. Why is that? Because the moon is populated. That's why. And it's interdimensionally populated. That's why. The moon would be something that would open your eyes and tell you everything you need to know about this entire mystery that we're talking about today. Their eyes would be open. They would be as gods and see good and evil. See good and evil meaning they would see the perspective. They would see everything, the opposites, light versus dark, dark versus light. They would see the system that we're all in, that remains hidden in the pyramid, that's tethered to men's souls. That is something that man just can't grok. He can't figure it out. Anyway, I saw a new heaven and new earth. For the new heaven and for the first heaven and the first earth were passed away, and there was no more sea. So we're talking about not just the sea, but the earth was passed away. The earth, all the creation is gone. So there's no more thing to worry about there. It's gone. And there was no more sea either, but, that's fine. But if the earth is gone, the sea would be gone too. So it's kind of a redundant point. But the first heaven, the stars that you see, the skies, and the atmosphere, and the planet itself is gone. Is gone. And what does that leave a person? Where would John be? Would he be a natural man standing there on Patmos in that vision? No, he would be another form looking at it, wouldn't he? So he's gone too. His form is gone. If the earth is gone, he's gone. Just stands to reason. So now, who is perceiving what? So God wipes out things with floods. He wipes out things with cataclysms like pole shifts and asteroids and various things that can destroy. This delicate balance you see here is subject to being eliminated completely and without regret, without repentance, without any sorrow too. So what? He was here today, gone tomorrow. It's God, he's making something else. In this situation, the birds live and then they die, and then the plants live and then they die, and the rocks fall down, and things move around, and things die, and then eventually the sun dies and the planets go and whatnot. We're talking about eternal terms here. And I, John, saw the holy city, New Jerusalem, coming down from God out of heaven. But the first heaven had passed away, so we're obviously talking about the higher heaven from the firmament, prepared as a bride adorned for her husband. So this is obviously, he's seeing some sort of object, some sort of thing. Maybe he can't describe it, but it's bejeweled and adorned in every way, like you would think the throne of God would be. But you see, God is with men and will dwell with them, and they shall be his people, and God himself shall be with them and be their God. Right in these 3 paragraphs here, the first 3 verses, you have the entire mystery unraveled for you of all creation and non-creation and extinction and all of it. In this, they cannot enter in to this understanding that you and I have right now. And I know it's an intuitive understanding. It's not a forget your logic, throw it out the window, please. Check your brain at the door. Your brain can't help you here. Your education can't help you here. Your logical mind cannot help you here. Let me just say that this truth that you've now entered into, this mystery, is something they cannot break. They can't break the code of this. Code breaking is a very good way of putting it, because basically they've been trying to crack that code from the very beginning. The entire, I don't know how many billions they've spent on this super collider. I mean, it's gotten to be ridiculous. And they believe they've found the God particle. They're trying to crack this mystery. They can't do it. It's just amazing to me. It's always been funny, like watching the Keystone Cops, It's like watching the cops try to get, how about 10,000 cops trying to catch one terrorist who's really a patsy or whatever, running after, having people stand down and going into their homes with guns and telling them to go wait outside because there might be a terrorist there. Unbelievable. Like Boston was like watching the Keystone Cops. It was hilarious. I mean, I'm sorry people died and all that, but I mean, how people could go, I told you, when you get together with these people and you enter into their matrix, your IQ goes down to about 80 or 50 or whatever it needs to be. If you're part of the collective, you're going to go, boy, I'm glad those cops were there they got those terrorists. That's a great job. And I would be cheering if I had an IQ of 50. If I was part of the collective. Yes, we can. IQ of 50, maximum. Yes, we can. We're the collective. IQ of 50. Don't need more than that because we think as a team. Well, in fact, I don't even need to think at all. My thoughts are given to me where it's all part of the collective. You enter into a supernatural mystery there, don't you? It's a matrix, yes. Try to describe it as a matrix, but it's really a world that has gates and a door and everything. And if you're out, you're out, and that's seen. If you're in, you're in. He that overcomes is going to inherit the New Jerusalem, which is another physics, which stands for a whole other thing. I understand that we can measure it, and we talk about for example, we start measuring this, okay, and then so let's go ahead and do some of that, okay. And he carried me away in the spirit to, now this is already when the sun's gone, the earth, the moon, everything's gone, and John, whatever he is, he can be carried away now in another dimension where the physics has changed. And let me go to the verse 9 here. And there came unto me one of the 7 angels, which had the 7 vials full of the 7 last plagues. Remember, God will hurt the earth. He'll he'll take vengeance upon man who has hurt his people. He will make his move. He will not, it's just like a force of nature. The pendulum goes one way, it goes the other way. Come hither, the angel says, I will show you the bride, the Lamb's wife. Now remember, the New Jerusalem was coming down from heaven like a bride adorned for her husband. And he carried me away in the spirit to a great and high mountain, and showed me that great city, the holy Jerusalem, descending out of heaven from God, having the glory of God, and her light was like unto a stone most precious, even a jasper stone, or like crystal. So something utterly supernatural, something utterly unreal, not of this realm. Anyway, the earth had gone away, but now we're on some kind of a mountain somewhere. And the world had not come back. The world has still gone away. So now we've gone into like another set, like you're on a movie set. Now you're on the set of a mountain. It had a great wall and high and 12 gates, and at the gates were 12 angels, and the names written thereon, which are the names of the 12 tribes of the children of Israel. On the east 3 gates, on the north 3 gates, on the south 3 gates, and on the west 3 gates. And the wall of the city had 12 foundations, and in them the names of 12 apostles of the Lamb. And he that talked with me had a golden reed to measure the city, and the gates thereof, and the wall thereof. Remember Ezekiel's measurements of the temple. And the city lieth 4 square, and the length is as large as the breadth. And he measured the city with the reed, 12,000 furlongs. The length of the breadth of the height is of it are equal. And he measured the wall thereof, and 144 cubits, 144, according to the measure of a man, that is, of the angel. And the building of the wall of it was of jasper, and the city was pure gold, like unto clear glass. And gold is not glass, but very polished gold can appear like glass with a certain light. And the foundation of the wall of the city were garnished with all manner of precious stones. The first foundation was jasper, the second sapphire, the third chalcedony, and the fourth an emerald. That must be a big emerald. And the fifth sardonyx, the sixth sardius, the seventh chrysolite, the third beryl, the eighth beryl, the ninth topaz, the 10th chrysoprasus, the 11th jacinth, the 12th amethyst. We have a lot of amethyst around here just lying on the ground. And the 12 gates were 12 pearls. At every several gate was of 1 pearl, and the street of the city was pure gold, as it were transparent glass. He said this again. So pure gold is so pure it can appear as transparent glass, apparently, But I take it another way, that when you're in another dimension, everything can be, gold can appear like pure glass, but not in this dimension. Gold appears as gold. So we're somewhere else with a different physics. And the city had no need of the sun, neither the moon, to shine on it. Indeed, there is no sun and moon. For the glory of God did light it, and the Lamb is the light thereof. And there's the unlocking of the mystery for you. God is the light source, and the Lamb is the light. Remember, the worm is the spice is the worm. Remember that? So there's a deep mystery. Well, that obviously was inspired from something in the Bible here. That was the series Dune by Frank Herbert. Well, Here you have a book that I just avoided reading because it was just such a big book. I just couldn't imagine. Here I am with another big book. I'm on page 1917. God did light it, and the Lamb is the light thereof. And we began our talk with who is Jesus and God. We say God and Jesus are one, John 17, that's undeniable. And then we are one in that because there is nothing separate from I am, that's undeniable. But still remains a mystery, impossible to explain in our logical terms. But here we have the mystery unveiled. And the city had no need of the sun, neither of the moon, to shine on it. For the glory of God did light it, and the Lamb is the light. And that is God. God lights it, and the Lamb is the light. And God is light, and the Lamb is light. And so we both are really one. But to get a distinction there, the Lamb is the light. God lights it, and the Lamb is the light. God is also not separate from his creation. He's not separate from the wood in your house. He's not separate from the sun, the moon, the stars. He's not separate from your stomach when you've eaten a McDonald's. He's not separate from your mind and your soul. He's not separate from anything anywhere. And the Lamb is the light thereof. So in order to have light, we must have what? The Lamb. Or the light of God. When God shines the light, we have no light. Without the Lamb, there is no light. The Lamb is capital L. The Lamb is God. Okay. And the nations of them, we can go around and around. People keep wanting to parse it, and that's fine. But I don't, I am the Alpha and the Omega, the first and the last, the beginning and the end. Jesus identifies himself as the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end, the first and the last. And people think, well, he's the first man and the last man. It's not necessarily in terms of that. But let's go ahead and let Jesus speak, because I suppose we started with a question. It just doesn't give up. The book that keeps on giving. Revelation reveals the mystery that the scientists with their collider can't figure out, that have spent generations really trying to figure out, in a high-tech form, and billions and trillions of dollars, however much. I come quickly, and my reward is with me, to give to every man according to his work shall be. I am Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end, the first and the last. And then he goes on to say, in other words, you're still human, right? You need a human connection. So he's the first and last. With respect to humanity, he's the end-all and be-all. He will give to you, according to your work, yes, but according to your, overcome. I think that's the more accurate answer, to overcome. And he showed me a pure river of water of life, clear as crystal, proceeding out of the throne of God and of the Lamb. In the midst of the street of it, in the midst of the street of it, and on either side of the river, there was the tree of life, which bare 12 manner of fruits, and yielded her fruit every month, and the leaves of the tree were for the healing of the nations. And there shall be no more curse, but the throne of God and of the Lamb shall be in it, and his servants shall serve him, and they shall see his face, and his name shall be in their foreheads. And there shall be no night there, and they shall need no candle, neither the light of the sun. For the Lord God giveth them light, and they shall reign forever and ever. And he said unto me, These sayings are faithful and true. And the Lord God of the holy prophets sent his angel to show unto his servants the things which must shortly be done. And I would contend that these things are ongoing. All of this is an ongoing now. Now. There is no past or there is no future. But all these things were unfolding, and just as it's being unfolded here, it's unfolding galactically. It's unfolding infinitely. It's unfolding at the throne of God. It's the mystery is that I think this is the best answer to the mystery so far. God lights it, and the Lamb is the light. And then further to that, it's very important to say Lamb here. Further to that, he says, there shall be no more curse, but the throne of God and of the Lamb shall be in it. So the throne of God and the Lamb is in the creation, not separate from the creation, but is in the DNA. In other words, it's the light that we have, because there's no more need of light, is within us. The Lamb and the throne of God is, and this is mentioned twice as we, and no more than that, as we're leading to this finale, that the throne of God is within men. Is the finishing of the creation, the finished work, is placing the throne of God within God's people, and they shall reign forever and ever, i.e. Book of Daniel, chapter 12. Right? So, the conclusion then, the whole purpose of all of these things, and the curse that was upon humanity, the Bible clearly says humanity has been, and you've been born, under a curse. Remember that old blues song, Born Under a Bad Sign? The whole world's been born under a bad sign, has been born under a curse. So please understand that, and understand that, but where we are headed and what the point of creation is the Lamb of God, the throne of God, the light of God, the physics, the eternal physics, the different dimension, the infinite dimensional being that's being created here. The throne of God is within that. And now they talk about plural, obviously more than one person, but a person is no longer defined as some sort of biped. That's irrelevant now. The form of a person is now irrelevant. But whatever a person is, he is light, because God is light, and the light is within him, meaning the DNA is light. The being, whatever it is light. Therefore, henceforth, and concluding very scientifically as I've laid it out. So the mystery of God is the creation of God as the finished work of God is this creation we're talking about. Now, and the blocking of it, i.e. freedom, i.e. eternity. Trust me, you're going to like it. If you're in that form, no, there's no more curse. There's no more pain. The Bible clearly uses the word pain. There is no more pain. And when they pain in that context, I don't have my concordance here, but we could have some fun with that. Pain in this context means, the pain of the world, the pain of existence. It's gone. There is no more pain. There is no, I've been described by people as someone who thinks deeply and is a troubled soul, because the things of the world affect me deeply. I feel so bad when people are doing evil to each other, and meaning, you just like the news every day. It's filled with it. It's just awful. It's just depressing to me. But anyway, all of that is gone. Man's inhumanity to man is what I'm talking about. It's gone. But so is the earth. And so is in other words, the physics that you had before are gone. The physical objects in space are gone. The New Jerusalem is described as a city, but where people make the mistake, and this is where seminaries make the mistake, and theologians, they keep trying to put it in a 3D context, like there's an earth, but it already said there is no earth. There is no earth. Others have claimed it's like a spaceship floating in space, and it's exactly those dimensions. Not necessarily. Those dimensions are, people want to read something into them, but that I believe that the entire vision of this New Jerusalem, as shown to John, was shown in a way that John could comprehend. He was identifying the jewels, and he said the gold would, twice he said the gold is transparent glass. Now let me ask you a question. Have you ever seen gold as transparent glass? Trish, have you seen that? No, I guess I'm the early bird. Gold is transparent glass. I mean, even when you refine it, we have 99.9% refined gold. It's not pure glass. Even when it's in the smelter, it all melted down. It's not melted glass. I mean, not transparent glass. Melted. It's melted, yes, but it's not transparent. But that's irrelevant because he's not talking about that. He's saying the streets are of gold, and then everything was of gold. But it's transparent like glass. In other words, it has a crystalline, and in other higher dimensional realms, there are things like crystal cities on the moon. Yes, they're there. You can't see them with a telescope because they're not in this dimension exactly. So John was taken, in my view, to another dimension. Yes, there are bad guys in other dimensions who go in and out of this one. That's right, who have that technology, and there's bad actors, bad humans, all tied up with all these people, and they're flying around in UFOs, and all that's going on. And it's a big secret, a big mystery. That's why the Bible is so important, because you see, the unraveling of the mystery of the big picture mystery, the tree of life mystery, the thing God had to bar man from, the thing the occultists wanted to get so badly they would kill for it and kill others if they knew it, is answered in the last 2 chapters of the book of Revelation. It's answered in a scientific, palpable, physical way. I mean, you scientists out there can flesh it out. You got to get rid of time, and you got to get rid of our concept of space, and then if you want to start with the measurements, you got 144, you got 12 by 12 by 12, you got these various symbols there. I believe it's a code to be unraveled, but I don't think it's the dimensions of a 3D city. No, not at all. First of all, I can prove that by saying gold is not transparent glass. But cities on the moon that are transparent glass might be described as having a golden hue of light. But where's that light coming from? It lights itself. Okay? But God gives the light. In the end, all there is the New Jerusalem. So there's like a time clock. At some point, this happens. And it's lit up by itself because the temple of God is within men. So, and many people have finally gone down this path and said, then we are the New Jerusalem, and the measurements are describing our DNA at that point and describing eternity at that point. It'd be fascinating to just sit there for like a month or two and unpack that whole thing. But I think in general we unpack it. God gives the light, and the Lamb is the light, but it resides within the creation, the finale, which is the new being, the being God is creating, the New Jerusalem. I make all things new, the name of Jesus. All this passes away. The sky, the atmosphere, the first heaven, passes away. The land, the sphere called Earth, and so I would then have to maybe throw into that same category. It would be logical that, in other words, all the other spheres, maybe the entire firmament, is now irrelevant in this world, in this New Jerusalem, which is within us. It's fascinating, but that's the unraveling, and that's the thing that God put the cherub at the tree with a flaming sword. The cherub is a big warrior angel, big giant angel that can kill hundreds of thousands and millions of people at will. So that flaming sword is in front of the tree of life. Man ate from the tree of good and evil, the tree of the occult, of knowledge, of gnosis, of the mystery in one perspective. But the tree of life was barred, but he could eat. In fact, obviously, the Lord God wanted them to eat of the fruit. That's why he told them it was off limits. Given the nature of what he created. He knew that if he said that somehow, and he even knew the serpent was there in the garden, which being God, he's almighty, all-knowing, all everything. So he obviously he created the serpent, and he put the serpent there, and figured, okay, so man of his own free will is going to take of this fruit, and then, of course, that creates the legal issue, the need for a rescue, the need for the lamb. But it's not about the lamb rescuing us. It's about God finishing his creation. And Satan and the fallen angels and Lucifer and all the pantheon of beings stuck in this realm, they're trying to block God's creation, his consummation, which is, I am the lamb, right? The final, because the very thing in the page that concerns people is the fact that, well, if there's no earth and there's no sky, well, then all our science is out the window. We got to stop this. We can't have God finish his creation, because in finishing it, we're gone. This was all just a part of it. So we can't have that. And the humans are too stupid to realize that they're in a process of becoming something. They don't know that they're still in the womb. So we can't let them out. We're going to have to abort them. Maybe that's why they like abortion so much. Besides giving, their God, Satan, as much blood as they can in a kind of a legal way to make it look like have the people go, that's okay. It's an abortion. It's not really murder. And you have to have an IQ of 30 to see that. I mean, when someone says they're an abortionist and I have nothing to say to them, and I recuse myself from any relationship there, because I'm not here to be their counselor. That's not. They're without excuse. They have enough with their own conscience to know what the truth is, and they've rejected it. So there's nothing I can add to that conversation. So I'm not an advocate. I don't go around hey, if people are led to do that, let them. I am not led. But I just say I will have no connection. I don't care about people who've had abortions and then they woke up and they were duped into it and repented about it. I understand. I mean, people have done murders, they've done abortions, but they're all kind of on the same level, in my opinion. It's the killing of innocent life. But repentant murderers, sure, I got loads and loads of people I know in that category, and no problem. We're straight up friends. I mean, I'm talking about someone who believes in it. Someone that believes in it almost as a right, as a kind of a right, meaning R-I-T-E, a right, like some sort of sacred right. This was the time of old. They would sacrifice the babies to Molech, and they would, again, this, there's a sacrificial thing going on earth. The civilizations before us had it, and we have it. And we have it in war and abortion. And those two things have to be perpetual and ongoing in order for us to survive, according to the people of the obelisk and their way of life, their civilization. I'm not here to argue with their civilization. I'm not here to, most of these people cannot be reached and will not be reached, and there is no point anymore. The Lord showed me a few years ago that he was shutting the door. In other words, the people that are his are on that side, the people that are, so now it's time for the big battle, because the people that are his, people that aren't, everyone knows who they are, everyone's got their positions and ready to go at the big battle. No, the Christians aren't going to fight anyone. I mean, they're just going to, be like they've always been, led to the slaughter, because Jesus is basically all about overcoming. If they are killed or martyred or whatever, they have overcome the world, haven't they? So they won. So, that's why that exists. It's not a mystery. It's very simple. I think most people with sound mind would consider this to be a struggle existence upon the earth. And so you're going to die anyway. So do you want to die winning or losing? Paul said you got to run the race that you would win, meaning what? Overcoming the devil, period. There is, basically the whole point of being on earth is to serve God, which means overcoming the devil. It's very simple. Those who overcome will be given, eternal life, period. Being compromised with the devil and saying Jesus, Jesus, Lord, Lord, and going to church 100,000 times a week doesn't mean it's meaningless. It's a legal issue. It's got nothing to do with, how you feel or your assessment of what you've done or whatever. It's basically a legal matter, and it's a scientific matter. He's made so many that are souls that are his and so many that aren't, which exasperates them. So Satan, the people of Satan think like Satan. So as a hive, they all have the same thought process, which is we're going to eliminate anyone that is not us because they're unfair, they're cruel, they're awful, they're terrible people, and they're an aberration. They should never have been born, is what they would say. And so we got to make sure through getting control of the genetic code and the human genetic code, we must make sure this kind of thing never happens again and find out what genes are responsible for Jesus and people that would follow him. And it's like, well, they don't understand. I don't follow Jesus. I am Jesus. You know what I mean? It's in other words, or I don't even have to say the word Jesus. I am. Now I could say because of Jesus, I am. And who is I? I is not me, a separate ego, but I is the will of God. I is, this is God's creation. I is, this is about him, not me. I is, there is no me. There is only I. Therefore, I have nothing to worry about because I am. I have nothing to fret over, as Jesus taught us. He said, you don't have to fret. You're mine. I take care of my children. Look what the Father has done with the plants and the animals and the trees, and how much more would he take care of you, his beloved? Who are his beloved? Who are the people of God? Who are the people that belong to God? How can you tell if you belong to God or not? That's a question I can hear floating around out there right now. How can you tell if you're one of his or not? And the answer is that's an irrelevant question. You just are what you are, and you may not even, you don't need to know any more than that. If you're of God, I guess you would be, then you would not be of Satan. You would not be of the world. You wouldn't be, but then, there are prodigals too. I mean, there are people who think they want to be this or that, and they think they want all this stuff, and then they realize that, this whole life, this struggle from birth to death is ridiculous, and they sort of wake up at that point to knowing there's God there, and then they try to get other people to wake up and go on missions and take care of and missions do good work, taking care of the poor, taking care of feeding the people. I mean, you can say what you will about Franklin Graham, but his charitable outreach is huge and does a lot of good, and I'm glad God's using them to do that. On the other issue of position and legalities, I've been dealing with that, but the thing is I can't get anywhere with people like that because they're not going to listen to me about anything. But sometime before they die, they will have the truth and they will have a choice to make. And the Lord has a lot of people like that are just stuck in the matrix, stuck in the satanic system, stuck in Mystery Babylon, who are missionaries and pastors and churches and the congregations and masses of people that are in that category. There's nothing I can do for them. In fact, this conversation, they wouldn't even be able to hear it because if they did, it would so disturb them. that they would feel completely confused. And right now they're being coddled in their in their ministries. And what's happening is they're being fed lies from the pulpit. Half-truths. Jesus is the way, the truth, and life, sure. And then the next thing they'll be parsing this or like parsing the New Jerusalem when I heard John MacArthur do it. I just was left so, and even J. Vernon McGee, a guy who I like to listen to on the radio, but these guys don't have a clue. Sorry, they just can't figure it out. They don't have a clue. I don't know why they don't have a clue. They want to have a clue, and I've seen MacArthur's congregation, and they're pretty much, except for maybe about 10% of the people that were there, all part of the Matrix, all locked in that prison, all locked in the hive mind. It was like something like there's 87% of them, because when the Lord took me there, and he was in me, looking through my eyes, and he was telling me as a witness, he was saying, okay, this is this, and that's that, and this is this. He was showing me all the different people and all the different things. There was a bunch of people kind of in wheelchairs there, and maybe there's about 10,000 people in a service. And the wheelchair people, they were pretty much, and then the people that had issues like, were handicapped in some way. These people seemed to be lambs. They weren't in this prison. So it's almost like their handicaps were a gift, keeping them out of it. Then the guy leading the chorus, he was the most evil of everybody, and he could see me, and he was glaring at me, and what was in me was the Holy Spirit. So we understand what that is. That was the guy leading the chorus of singers. And then I had seen the pastor, and I'd seen in the spirit where two angels were holding him up arm by arm on that day, because he couldn't stand on his own. They were having to hold, in other words, he couldn't stand on his own. He had to be held up by two angels. I said, well, if you have two angels holding him up, doesn't that mean you love him? And doesn't that mean, yes, but he's lost. He's completely trapped. He's 100% a slave. He's working for Babylon. He's showing me. I'm like, well, Lord, how am I going to live? If you're going to show me all this, they're going to think I'm a lunatic. Yes, but you need to know this, because you're not like them, and you don't know the difference, and you need to learn fast, because otherwise, that's right, you will become cannon fodder. So I got to educate you. Okay, Lord. So 87% are with the devil in this church. Yes. And then later I told someone this vision, and it wasn't a vision, it was an experience. He was in me looking out my eyes. He also taught me to ride a motorcycle that way. I tried to take lessons. I had a big Indian bike, and I should have started on a little bike and worked my way up, but I had this big bike. I was scared to death. I couldn't ride it. I could not ride. I tried to take a lesson. I couldn't do it. So he told me he just wanted me to jump on the bike and tear down the road and get on the freeway, which was, people driving, cars everywhere. This was Los Angeles. So he was in me, it was like a David test, right? We got the Lord, it's okay. 500 of us against 10,000 Philistines, no problem. Jumped on the bike, tore out on the freeway. I suddenly knew what to do, because I had to just forget that I didn't know what to do. And then I ran into a friend out, a guy that is a wayward, kind of prodigal and trapped in the world, though. And he saw me on the bike. He was the guy giving me the lessons. And he saw me on the bike, and we pulled over. He goes, "What are you doing?" And I said, "God taught me how to ride." And then he took me all over the city, and he took me up to this place up in Mulholland, where there was a school up there. It was I think called the Roscommare School. When we were little kids, I was living up there with it. It was in Bel Air off Mulholland, and it was like a smaller community, not like the big mansions of Bel Air type of thing. It was the very top, way up, and there was like some apartments up there and some modest housing up there, and some little California ranch houses, and there was a school. And I took the bike and I stopped. I said, "Lord, what are we doing here?" Yes, I used to live here. I remember my earliest memories of taking dollars I would get, $1 and I would go buy a kite or a pop or something there was like a market up there. And indeed, there was a person that I'd known before who was walking down the street, a woman, and her father was like walking her down the street. And I remember that her father was her handler, and there was a whole thing that went on where she was getting shock treatments, and they were given time, and her father was always there presiding over her. Oh, what is this sounding like? I know, Mike. I know exactly. Illuminati mind thing. I know. MK Ultra, whatever. Yes. Okay. Yes, I witnessed that. Yes, I was there. And yes, she blamed me for the suicide of her friend. I was in a relationship, and it kind of, there's lots of layers to all this. But so I saw her after all this time. He said, "Don't talk to her. Look at her. She was indeed a zombie. She had no mind. He had to lead her down the street. She never got away from him. And then at one point she accused him of having incest with her. So he still had his hands on her. And he was walking her to the door of the same house that they lived in originally and still lived in. And he was old now. And she was, and this was, I don't know how many years ago. This is a long time ago. And so he was similarly with me and looking through my eyes at this situation and then telling me, "Do you see what has happened here? Do you see what they do? You see the conclusion of this story." Now, what are the odds on going through an incident, having known a person, going through shock treatment, knowing about the weird incestuous thing with her father, who was always there kind of presiding over the shock treatments. Then she'd get out of the shock treatment, and, she'd, a girl who was terminally depressed, who had moments of lightness, but, her father was always there over her. And then to see some 30 years later, 40 years later, her father over her, the same thing, only this time now she's a zombie. In other words, she had to be walked down the street, walked into her home, completely blank, psychologically. And I saw that, and I go, wow, has she been wiped? Is that what they did? They wiped her memory, or wiped her. She really is a zombie. There's really nobody there. And that's exactly right. There's no one there except that controlling person who had controlled her from cradle, probably to grave by now, but I don't know. But I said, "Lord, it must be you, because the odds of my driving here, stopping and waiting and seeing that walking down the street and being a witness are a billion, zillion, trillion to one. So therefore, you're the Lord. You got my attention. You taught me to ride this bike, and then you showed me this." In other words, and what was that I was looking at? Well, what later I came to know, people that had been through the same kind of experiments, same kind of psychological torture, and they were known as monarchs and the various names of people that going back to Operation Paperclip of World War II and psychology. And of course this also led to Dr. Jolyon West of UCLA, who I had also known, and through his one of his kids, and strange, just strange what I had known, and then later came to see that, he was the psychiatrist for Timothy McVeigh and Sirhan, and it seems that Hinckley that these guys are the same characters keep showing up in all these incidents, all these traumas that are being inflicted upon American society by this strange occultic force that seems to operate as if by magic in controlling all the events, including Sandy Hook and Aurora and all these different things. It has a supernatural, ultra-dimensional aspect to it. Superstorm Sandy, the tornado in Oklahoma, the directing storms at their own people, and just this horrible morass, like I said, and I want to put all this under an umbrella of, it's really hard to live right now knowing what you know, isn't it? With all of this. And, they say, well, don't buy these conspiracy theories. Well, every conspiracy theory that I have ever looked at, given enough time, has turned out to be true. In fact, has turned out to be only part of the information. It was much worse. Like 9/11 being an inside job is only a part of the information. It's actually much worse than that. Right? What we've learned since then and about, the buildings being demolished by themselves. What's worse is that the public is under mind control from electronics and atmospheric different things and food and whatever, television, whatever it is, but that they could see a building fall on its own with no plane hitting it and whatnot, and no apparent, for no reason that a steel building, which even a fire wouldn't make it collapse, but on its own just simply fell, and the people never asked a question, why? Or crisis actors showing up at Sandy Hook and then elsewhere, no one asks why. Or obvious people that had these military psychiatrists going off and shooting up a bunch of people and having all these things look orchestrated. The public goes, no, they're all isolated incidents, and it's just terrible. We really need gun control and all that. Their reaction is to all the anomalies going on with the Boston incident, which was clearly a drill that, almost went awry, almost unraveled on them in terms of people being able to see what was really going on. And I'm not going to go into specifics. I'll leave that to the experts about all these events, including the assassination of JFK and other traumas, have traumatized the people into being controlled and mind controlled. JFK was the biggest trauma that I'd ever faced. Seeing that on television and seeing how easily they just shot Lee Harvey Oswald to get rid of him. All this should have given people clues as to what's really going on. But then there's a deeper occultic thing and a connection with the moon, a connection with other worlds. But it all gets encapsulated and it all gets solved and resolved in the last 2 chapters of the book of Revelation, which is basically that God's creation eliminates the heaven and earth and eliminates all the things they've been working so hard for, just sort of wipes them out. It just, boom, gone. That's it. In a sense, Satan is just simply trying to survive. Of course, it's deeper than that and more multi-layered, and the hatred is it's just so thick and palpable, and the people that become those things, they're things. They're not people anymore. They become things. They're just basically, what drives them is hatred. But they're always the ones saying love and world peace, but they're driven by hatred. And the celebrities and the rest of them, they're all driven by hatred. And it's that demon of political correctness. That's pure hatred. That if you're not, a certain thing, then, you're just, that's pure hatred, that kind of attitude, that kind of superior, attitude. It's like, person, hey, human, let me talk to you, human. You're going to die and it won't matter. Nothing you did here will matter. To the top celebrity all the way down to the day laborer and beyond, it won't matter. Nothing that we do really matters. I mean, it's all orchestrated in the sense that, like, for example, the people that think they're getting away with all these conspiracies, and there's probably many more, Monsanto and the rest of it, chemtrails and the rest of it. Okay, all of that God laughs at. He laughs at them. Let me just show you this verse that he showed me, again and again, but I just keep going back to it, and I marvel at that. I just turn right to it. How do you like that, guys? Psalm 37, verse 13. The Lord shall laugh at him, for he sees that his day is coming. All their days are coming, all of them. It's like, what in the world? The wicked plotteth against the just and gnasheth upon him with his teeth. Yes, the wicked plots against the people of their own country in the United States of America. The wicked go to war with the people that mean them no harm. But God laughs at Obama. For he sees that his day is coming. And whoever else, Napolitano, and, basically I want to redo her wardrobe. I'd like to restyle her with epaulets, and I think she needs some blonde streaks in her hair. What do you think? And some really red lipstick, right? Epaulets and some... I would love to see her go like a little bit of a Banana Republic, where you wear the military outfit and then you have like all the medals. You know how these like third world dictators have they're drenched in medals, right? And ribbons and medals, and they have all these and epaulets and fancy like riding crop. I think she needs a riding crop. She needs medals. She needs a little dog to carry around with her. She needs a streak of blonde hair, or it could go completely blonde, or some just streaks of blonde. Really red lipstick. Now my hairdresser tendencies are coming out, but I hope you'll forgive that. I can't help myself. I have to design things. So what else could we do with her, Trish? Yeah, I want to do a Napolitano makeover. I'm talking about a riding crop, a little white dog, streaks of blonde in her hair, really red lipstick, and some sort of personal, I don't know about smoke. Yeah, it'd be so politically incorrect for her to smoke, and she's made her life so politically correct. But the little dog would be a nice touch. The riding crop might be hard with the dog. We have to make a decision. I would go with the dog rather than the riding crop, because that's kind of, jodhpurs, riding crop. That's too 1940s. So that's out. Dog, definitely. A little toy poodle or some kind of little dog. Maybe not a toy poodle, but one of those other kind of cute dogs. I don't know what they're called. Shih Tzus? Yeah, Shih Tzu. Right? They kind of have, right? They're like little poodles. Okay. So one of those, some kind of a thing, kind of start going with a military style garb with a skirt. I would never put her in pants. She's always has to have a skirt. And some kind of tough shoes, strong shoes. And some kind of personal military vehicle that's just for her, that she hops in and they go somewhere. They hops in and she arrives, more military, more militarized. And I think that that would be almost like the ultimate sort of big German woman kind of thing, big fat dominatrix. Gosh, yeah. And then, and why hide it? I mean, if she wants to, should I just stop? Okay, sorry. I'm sorry. But anyway, back to the spirit here. Look. So the Lord showed me this woman, and like he showed me in the church, and he showed me how to ride a bike, where I couldn't ride that motorcycle to save my, I couldn't do it. It was, they would say, start with like a little tiny motor scooter and then work your way up slowly. It was one of those things. So God threw me in the deep end of the pool. The incidents like this with the Lord have happened again and again. One time, I had a Volkswagen van, it was a really kind of a cool old van, and it wouldn't start. So I actually prayed to God right there. I said, what am I going to do? I'm stuck in the middle of nowhere. And he had me get a screwdriver and go stick it between a couple of points underneath the vehicle, and lo and behold, it started up. It was bizarre because it wasn't anything logical, but it was the same thing as the driving of the bike, and then the incident at the MacArthur Church, the Grace Church in the Valley in California, in L.A. By the way, I don't want to pick on him a lot. I'm not picking on him. I'm just saying what the Lord showed me. And we went to the other churches too. We went to Rocky Peak and went to this one called In His Presence, and some elsewhere, and some black churches. And Calvary Chapel, and which was revisiting the trauma that I had back when I was 17, when my friend Peter took me to Calvary Chapel to try to save me because I was so troubled, he said. And I really was. I was really a mess then. Same person, though, as I am now. But I mean, I went there and I just thought to myself, these are like CIA mind control agents or something. That's what I thought. And that back then they had a tent, they were saving the hippies or whatever. They had this tent revival thing going, and it just seemed so fake to me, I couldn't believe it. And then after reading, seeing what Chuck Smith, his business practices are, because I just happened to have what are the odds of this? We happened to have a friend who was the caretaker on one of his properties. It was a $5 million property that he had, and you go, oh, wow, he's really rich. He's really rich off Calvary Chapel. What are you talking about? Really rich. But he stole the thing, the guy gave him the land, gave it to the church, which he didn't have the complete right of. And what my friend revealed to me was that they had lawyers, and he had to actually meet with the lawyers. He was there present when the lawyers came out, and they were checking it out. And basically they ended up getting the deed to the property, even though Chuck Smith didn't pay for it. And I guess it was church. I guess it belonged to the church, but he's also a shareholder in the church, which I think is a private corporation. Anyway, the bottom line is, the guy said to me, he goes, these sleazy lawyers of Chuck Smith, I mean, they basically stole this property. It's like, yeah, where's the Christianity in that? Yeah, you mix money and what ruined Calvary Chapel from day one out in Costa Mesa on day one in 1970, 71? What ruined Calvary Chapel is what ruins all of them, money. It was a money-grubbing thing from day one with that tent. Period. There is no other way to look at it. And the rest of the details, and anyway, so the Lord took me back to the Calvary Chapel, like he took me to Grace Church and J. Vernon McGee and all these different people, and he showed me. And then in there he said, watch this. And we walked in, and they all shunned it. They all turned 180 degrees away in unison, like a hive. And I was like, wow, this is totally supernatural. I mean, this is off the hook. So we started making fun of them, and then of course, it eventually came to where we were invited out. I was like an A student in their thing, and they said, well, you won't be coming here next semester, will you? No, I don't think so. Now that you're threatening my life and threatening to pick me off and shoot me, now that you're actually making death threats, no, I won't be back. I guess that's the policy of, after I've seen your lawyers and I've seen the whole sleazy operation, I realize now that, yeah, anything you don't like, you just kill. Because you're just part of the same system. Satan is your God. What do I do with people who say, brother, now you're being too judgmental? Yeah, they always do that. Whenever you go in there and I prophesied to them. I remember I prophesied to people at John MacArthur, to elders at John MacArthur's. I was at a barbecue, and the John MacArthur people said, look, don't you know what kind of trouble you're going to be in if you publish this book? It was called Lamb, and it's still available out there. Those of you can find a used copy. Because that time I had a manuscript. I was going to publish it. He goes, don't you know what kind of trouble, don't you know what kind of powerful people you tick off with stuff like this? Don't you know that talking about Satan and Satanism and all this stuff, don't you realize that's going to get you in trouble? Don't you realize that's going to limit your lifespan? So they took me out in the backyard and they gave me a good talking to, these elders from John MacArthur's church. They tried to put the fear of the devil in me. In other words, I can't talk truth about what's going on because there's so many people in it. Is that what? And that's basically what he said. He goes, look, everyone's in this. Everyone has gone to the devil. Everyone, the church, everybody. So you can't just go walking around talking like that. Now today, it seems everybody's talking like that. You go on YouTube, everybody's saying the same thing. I feel very gratified that back when it was really inconvenient. No, folks, seriously, I knew no better. I didn't know that everyone was in on it. I didn't know that. I really did. It was innocent on my part. I wasn't doing any brave, heroic thing. I was just trying to survive. I didn't understand why there was all these forces against me and all these supernatural things were happening that would scare most people to death. They'd be running to the shrink or something, and I realized what it was. It was as soon as I lifted up Jesus, as soon as the Lord took me back, and I promised him I would, serve him, and I'm remembering that promise right now. Not getting distracted here. Lord's the only way we can do anything, in our music business. That's our little shoestring music business that we're, our music label, our record label, and our different things that we're working on that, as a normal work, and our investments we made therein are nothing without the Lord, is the point. In other words, I wouldn't even know how to mix right now without the Lord. I have to ask him. I can't call up the guy that put the studio in here and say, hey, how do you do this? Hey, how do you do that? I mean, you know what I mean? Unless I want to pay him again. I mean, I had to, all those things, I just would start crying. I was so frustrated that I couldn't get something. And the Lord would always show me. And it's like, yes, it's about you. You wanted me to have that. You did. You took me to John McGraw. You took me to the Calvary Church. You took me to see that woman. You took me. You taught me how to ride. You've got me on the airplane. You got over my phobias and fears. You've healed my mind. You put my broken heart back together. You did all these things. You showed me the secret of the universe. You showed me the God secret that they all want to figure out. There's another aspect to this, and we're going to come back to this. And I'm hoping the Lord gives me a series of things to talk to you about, because I feel like I need it too. I need to delve in. I need to just, like right now, I just want to be quiet here with the Lord and realize that the Lord is the way, the truth, and the life. He is my breath. He is in me right now, speaking to you. He is in you, hearing me. He is one. We are one in him, and I am is all there is. So we have that mystery unlocked, at least now in the spirit. But the real mystery, the real secret to the whole thing is in the last 2 chapters of the book of Revelation. And it deals with the New Jerusalem, with identifying what that is. And it's within men. Not men, but God's creation, finale of the creation, is not going from one physics to another, but morphing it, like canceling one and having another. One is gone, and now this is what's happening. So here's my understanding, to sum up. When this passes away, this means them. That is Satan, whatever, the people who have sown to the earth, all the interdimensional kingdoms and castles and things are floating around out there, in the form of, the UFOs, okay? All the elders, these beings that are on the moon that decide what's going to happen on earth. All these pantheons of gods and, angels, call them fallen angels if you like, but all these pantheons of gods and traditions that have gone on thousands of years, and all these manifestations out there in the firmament somewhere. All these things that they try to hide from you, like the UFO secret, all of that. All those things, and all the comets and the suns and the stars and the moons and the planets and all those things, you mean just canceled? And how many of you have ever considered this word today? Because I haven't. No, I have actually. But it was a while back. Canceled. In other words, all this pain and war and civilizations and pyramids and super advanced technology and suns and mastering the universes, canceled. As if it was just a thought, and a fleeting one at that. Canceled. No longer necessary in the story. All there is God, so if it's canceled, that means The matrix, everyone in it, everything around it, all the beings of all calibers, the physical creation of God that you think is here forever, canceled, and them with it. Because all that exists is God's creation that lights itself. The Lamb is the light. And that's all there is. When it says no more memories, it means no more them. You can say, well, what about hell? There's no hell at that point. We're talking about after this story. There's that winds up, there's justice and people thrown in hell and people burning in hell, and they're going to burn in the lake of fire forever and ever, which it's still not. It's the perspective we're looking at it is that all of that's fine and well and all part of the world, but that's all gone now. I have a hard time believing that, Brother Z, that all the things God created here he's just going to cancel. Plus it says these people are going to burn in hell forever. No. Are you going to be aware that they're burning in hell forever? No. If you're in let's quote the New Jerusalem, end quote, because some people think it's a city on the earth or something, or others think it's a cube floating in space. No, there is no space for it to float in. What are you talking about? That was not part of this. Like there's outside the New Jerusalem, there's planets and stars moving around. No, there isn't. Where this goes, but I'm going to be sorry to see all that go. Whatever your thoughts are irrelevant too. The point is that there is no this. This is just, once that creation is done, once that finale finish is done, then it's done. It's the idea of mano a mano, one under me. I'm going to one under me, one above me. I'm going to work my way. I'm going to put you down, and all that. That's gone. In other words, the pain, meaning dog eat dog, hierarchy, having to conform to Satan in order to get a job, all that kind of crap is gone. The pain of this existence, or people who are trying to do the right thing and being punished for it, that's pain. That's gone. All of it gone. So what do we do to stop it? We need to find what the God principle is, the source and locus of creation, and put a stop to this process, because it's leading beyond the machine. The machines are going to be just canceled. And there's a lot of them. A lot of the aliens you see are just robots. They're machines. The machines have been around forever. And there's half human, half machines, and all kinds of things wandering around as well. All that is what? God laughs at that. Why? Because that's the wicked. The wicked want to beat God and become creators themselves. All that's gone. Through their technology and science, and even the fallen angels' technology and science, they are incapable and unable to get beyond this situation that we're all trapped in, but they're trapped in it too. And if you don't get out of this, it's gone. The train heading toward another train at 1,000,000 miles an hour, going down the track to the two bullet trains approaching each other at 200 kilometers an hour or whatever it is, it's gone. Meaning set aside. If you don't get out of that train situation, it'll crash and then it's gone. But in other words, all there really is I am and what he wants to do, which he said in chapter 21 and 22 of the book of Revelation. I keep repeating that because in there contain the secrets that the occultists have long tried to crack the code of forever. And right now they're using, the occultists, that is, the alchemists and whatnot, are using the super collider to try to put a stop to this situation by figuring out how God does it, so they might create their own space and avoid this totally cataclysmic situation of just another thought, another reality, not the one we were in, but this other thought. The other thing is about that the relation of God to man is basically that man exists, and the life force of man would be the Lamb, would be the only reason we exist, we breathe, is because God breathed into us, because of the Lamb. God decides to breathe into us, and the Lamb is that breath. The Lamb is that's the secret of all of it. So if you don't have that in you, then you have no life, and it's just that simple, for whatever reason. This gets it kind of out of the personal idea of Jesus as a natural person or a supernatural person, but a person on the earth, and gets more into the principle of what the Lamb is, what God is, and what you are, and what the relationship is. And that, in a way, is a microcosm of the whole thing, because you are basically the light, because the Lamb is the light, and you're of the Lamb. If you're in Christ, you believe in Jesus, then you are light. And what's in you is light, because the Lamb is the light. If you don't have the light in you, then you don't have the Lamb. Consequently, there are people that don't know about the name Jesus and these things, but they also have the light. Jesus said, there's others not of this flock that I have too. They have a different they have a different lexicon. Lexicons are going to be irrelevant in the end. It's still the same principle. They have to have the Lamb in them, have the light. And they have to know about the story of Jesus and confess and do it all exactly that way. No, they do, not necessarily, but they will all come to know Jesus if they belong to God. They all come to understand all of it. The globe is shrinking so much now with communications, it's kind of amazing that anyone would not understand at this point. But perhaps, we need to get even more so with the internet and everything else. It's impossible not to know. The thing about Jesus is he's lost popularity in America, but gained elsewhere. People of America have seemed to not understand. America was blessed, even with the Freemasonry and all the shenanigans that were going on with the atheists of the time and the creation of the Constitution. America was blessed because there were enough God-fearing people. God doesn't need 100%. There just needs to be enough. The reason that America is still here even now is because there's enough God-fearing people here, God-loving people here, that he will continue it. Remember the formula of Sodom and Gomorrah with Abraham saying, God, if there's like 100 righteous, will you spare it? Yeah, 100 righteous. He gets down to a certain point, and then God just walks away. God just becomes silent. In other words, if it gets below 10, nope, sorry, if it gets down that low. So there's a certain threshold there. Let's say it's 10 and the city is 100,000 people. You can take that as a percentage. If it gets that low in America, but it's not that low in America. There's more people here that are God-loving, God-fearing than there were in Sodom and Gomorrah. Therefore, I beseech you, Lord, as we bless you, please bless us. Please deliver us. Oh, I know you will. His promise. You promised us that you will deliver us out of the hand of the wicked. I pray for everyone listening now, Lord, that you will deliver them today out of the hand of the wicked right now, whatever the wickedness is in their life, whatever affliction there is in their life, whoever is trying to put a scam on them, who's ever hurting them in whatever way, manner, shape, or form, that you will deliver them and show them that you mean business, Lord, that these promises of the Psalms, when you say that the wicked looks to do wickedly, and the Proverbs, that the wicked looks to do wickedly, but you shall laugh at them, because you see their day is coming. You let the wicked run on a long time, Lord, but then I know you pull the plug because I've seen you do it. You do allow them to have their time, and I would go back to Cain, Lord. You show me that understanding that as you gave Cain the time here, you give the wicked a certain amount of time. And it seems unfair to the lambs because it seems like they get punished right away. But then you reminded me of another scripture yesterday, and that scripture is, blessed is he who the Lord chastises, because that one is, because the Lord who will not discipline someone else's children. It means you're his child. I'm butchering it terribly, folks, but basically the Lord showed me that scripture yesterday, and I've seen it several places in the Bible. Blessed is he who the Lord chastises, because he loves you, is what it says. Because he's not going to chastise someone that's not his, because it means you're his. So when you have instant karma, to me, that just means you belong to the Lord. You know, when you see the wicked getting away with it. And there's a lot in the Bible that's going to comfort you if you just go look it up. You know, it's going to tell you about the wicked. And the wicked seems to get away. The Bible, they go on and on in so many chapters, how the wicked seems to get away with just murder and lying and cheating and just doing wickedly. And we say, Lord, I get punished right away, but this guy gets to go on and on and on and on. And look at the politicians. They never tell the truth. And look at these planes destroying our ecosystems and our atmosphere. And look at all this stuff. And they get away with it. And there's all these secret things, people being poisoned. Now the wicked's doing all kinds of things. The Lord just keeps me going back to the Word. He says, look, the wicked's days are numbered. And I see the day of their downfall, and you will see them downfall. Every generation will see the wicked in their generation fall. We saw the downfall of Adolf Hitler. We saw the downfall of Mussolini. We saw the downfall of the whole Chinese oligarchy. You know, it's still a military dictatorship, but I mean, we've seen change there, capitalism and so forth, which means freedom. So I absolutely believe that no matter how wicked it looks right now, the Lord allows the wicked to prosper for a time. And then when the wicked least expect it, who's the wicked? Those in rebellion to God who are focused on doing harm to people to benefit themselves. Part of the satanic system. Those are the wicked. That's my definition of the wicked. Those who would do harm to others to boost themselves would be that would be the epitome of satanic wickedness, meaning life is a satanic ritual. That every one you harm is a sacrifice. And if it leads to death or someone committing suicide or somebody, whatever it is, those who systematically work iniquity for their own boost. The workers of iniquity, as mentioned in the Bible and the Psalms and with Jesus and everybody, the workers of iniquity are the wicked. And it says, Jesus says, what does he say? Depart from me because you are the workers of iniquity in Matthew 7. You're the workers of iniquity. So you depart from me because you are the workers of iniquity. Because you are the workers of iniquity, depart from me. In other words, Jesus and the workers of iniquity have no connection. So when they read from Scripture about Jesus, they usually want to put themselves in the place of Jesus, or say, like what is it, Psalm 43? Be still and know that I am God. We've seen that lately by a certain politician. Incredible arrogance. And what's so funny is they're being arrogant about something that made them, that regulates their heartbeat, that regulates their relative health, that regulates their planes, where they go, what they do, everything they're involved in. It's right there with them. They try to put all the cameras up and all the different things and all the microphones, and that everything is going to be recorded, and a globe where nothing moves, it's recorded, and they still can't figure it out. Wherever they go, whatever they do, any nuance, the smallest thing, the smallest detail is all seen by God, who's not separate from his creation, but in every aspect of everything that exists. So it's like the ultimate surveillance system. There is nothing in creation anywhere, in all creation, that isn't monitored by God and regulated and moved and dealt with on a daily basis forever and ever. Amen. So the thing they want to establish with all this surveillance is they want to get inside your head and find out like what you're going to do, and what, based on what you watch, based on what you eat, based on where you go, that they can predict, what you'll do and what you won't do. God's already got all that, and this is but a poor imitation. They're never going to really know you. they're going to collect some data and may get a false view of you. So, for example, you could be the nicest person, and you could be, to be off their radar, you could be a liberal, let's say, and vote for all the great liberal causes and be a great, have a great job and all these things, and then suddenly turn into this ruthless serial killer or something. And they would never have seen that coming, because there's nothing in your pattern and your behavior that would show that you're that kind of person, and so there's, people will, in other words, play the game. They can still, with all the cameras on them, just take on a character, play the game, and beat the system, meaning the system, including advertisers, who are trying to figure out where you're going to be and what you're going to do so they can sell you products. So they all are in the same boat wanting surveillance, and I guess the government's there to monitor to see if there's anybody that doesn't fit in with the new boss. And it's like, well, you could do that easily. You just vote for Obama. What do you have to do? Vote for Obama, join all the causes, work at your company, be sincere about it, and they would have a whole different view of you. They would never know you. No, but now with God, here's my point. With God, you could try to play the game like I just described and try to give them a different impression of you based on your behavior, and they would have a different conclusion of you, but it would be inaccurate. It wouldn't really be who you are, let's say. Let's say you're an actor, just taking on a role. With God, you can't do that. See, if you try to play a game with God, he knows you anyway. He knows you inside out. So you can't do it. With their surveillance, you can fool it. With God, you can't. Even though they're trying to be almost supernatural with the surveillance, it's just a lot of meaningless data meaning nothing. Just a meaningless stream of an endless stupid recording of stupid things, signifying nothing. What was it? The full of sound and fury, signifying nothing, the Shakespearean line. Full of sound and fury, life full of sound and fury, signifying nothing. What do they have at the end of the day? They're going to die. What do they have at the end of the day? They're what, the next generation to train up to be good citizens of the globe? What's the point? People are here and they're gone. It's what is it that's driving all this? And my conclusion is that it's basically life as an eternal machine. But the kicker is Revelation 21:22. But all this is put aside. The earth, the sun, the moon, and the stars is simply canceled. So for them, it's basically not just game over, but game never was. You can did they ever really exist? If the idea changes, the set, just like changing a movie set or a theatrical set on a play, they just come in and all of a sudden you have another scene 2,000 miles away at the beach, enjoying the sunset or whatever you are, wherever. They just changed the movie set. You're just in a different location, different movie, different story, not the same values, not the same paradigm, not good versus evil, not light versus dark, but the integration of all things. Okay, and they're not there, but there's no memory of them because all the memories are wiped clean by God, who wipes all the tears from everybody's eyes because there's no more pain, i.e. there's no more memory because there never was in the first place. So therefore, all there is, and this is it, I am, and here it is. This is what it looks like. Hence, the New Jerusalem details. This is what it looks like. Simile, metaphor. This is what it looks like. The key to it is this: gold streets that look like transparent, that are transparent glass. And I understand that from another dimensional. I bet you anything. Certain people that know, metal sciences. You say, at what point would gold be like a crystalline glass? And they could probably tell you at what either temperature or dimension or something where gold would actually look like transparent glass. But one thing is for sure, it's not this dimension. It's not those UFOs. It's not this mystery. It's not Mystery Babylon. All those things are as if what? as if they never were. Those things never did exist technically because time does not exist anymore. And space as we knew it does not exist anymore. And, no memory, therefore, it's as if it never happened in the first place. And they're trying desperately to not become, some sort of afterthought or just a thought that never was thunk. And since we're all just kind of like, these are all thoughts in God's mind, so they're trying not to be, made irrelevant or made to not exist as, made that they never did exist. That's something they can't handle. They've been spending all these thousands of years building their castles and their crystal cities on the different planets, on the moon, and flying around and staying hidden from us because they're in other dimensions, hyperdimensional physics, meaning the physics of this universe, the physics of these dimensions. All dimensionality, folks, is canceled. All dimensionality and concepts of dimensions is canceled, is non-existent, is never having been. The New Jerusalem, in a sense, does not exist and coexist with this reality. It is another reality, the only reality or real reality that exists and ever did exist, and that's all in the end that will be. In other words, God, for whatever reason, he wants to create this creation, the integration of himself into these vessels as light, which is the Lamb, which is the completion, meaning no need of anything. No strife, no death, no history. Completion forever that seems like just a moment, and a moment that seems like forever. Creation is complete at the New Jerusalem, which is as much internal as external. Of course, these concepts are rendered moot as well. All this simply set aside. All this set aside like, oh yeah, well, I had that thought, and we had these infinite, limitless universes and all this stuff, and an infinite firmament, and then it just was canceled. And I know that's almost impossible for people to believe, which is why I've never heard any sermon on this topic like this. I've heard several, but usually they're like the John MacArthur variety. They just kind of explain that he told us that he wanted to be a good boy here, which, that remains debatable. If you're any part of that system, you're not a good boy. But he wanted to be a good boy here so that he got a good job in the New Jerusalem. He figures he'll be working in the New Jerusalem. He said he didn't want to be a toilet attendant or a servant of some. He wanted to have a good job, so he's going to do everything he can here to make sure he really moves up the ladder there. This is a guy that has no clue whatsoever what's going on and has no business being with a Bible or a church. This is a guy who absolutely is out to lunch, a total spiritual incompetent. Amazing. And I know that he wants to do everything he can here to earn merit so that in the New Jerusalem he can have a good job. My jaw my mouth, my ears hurt. I just about fell over when I heard that one. I just don't understand. And he thinks that it's going to be right here. The world and everything won't be the same, but we're all just going to live in this city together, and some will have good jobs and others will be like servants. And I'm like, well, what's wrong with being a janitor? That's what I was in the church. I was the janitor. I clean up all their crap and everything the day after they have their shindig. I mean the service. I mean the shindig. I mean the whatever it is, the abomination. The ritual. Oh, the most horrific one I ever saw was we went to a baptism, and they had like these hot tub type things they were baptizing people in out at Santa Susana, Rocky Peak Church in L.A., which was on, and I couldn't help thinking it was on the same site as the Charles Manson camp or whatever, but that's kind of irrelevant. It's just a weird coincidence. But yeah, they had these like hot tub things, and the pastor came out, and he was dressed in all black, like almost like leotards and stuff, and he was just smarmy, it was sickening. And he would just get in the tub, and then these people would climb in the tub, and he'd be baptized him, and he was glaring at us because we were staring at him, because we really were trying to figure out if he was for real or not. And my friend didn't think so, who was with me. He was also a producer and Hollywood guy. He didn't think so. He thought the guy was just fake. He was chewing this gum, this breath mint gum, He kept putting, and he had breath mints, I'm sorry. He kept putting breath mints in his mouth. And, yeah, that was another incident where the Lord showed me. He goes, look, this guy's totally fake. And then on his resume, on his website, he's like, oh, well, I've always wanted to be a pastor, and I really enjoy swimming and body surfing, and I love the beach, and I just love, my life is just so blessed, it's ridiculous. Being a pastor in Southern California, and just having all these things going, all these activities I get to do. I mean, no one's more blessed than me, so I just really want to give back for God, I kid you not. I kid you not. I think I told someone if I had to be around a guy like that, I'd commit suicide. If I was his wife, I'd be, when we went up to meet him, like after a sermon, his wife, the Jezzy, had him by the balls, and she was just like glaring at me and Trish. I mean, just glaring at us like, you stay away from him. Like, don't break the mind control. Don't break the mind control. And I just wanted to say, good sermon, but, he was talking about the book of Revelation. And I was basically being disingenuous, forgive me, Father. I wasn't in my right mind. I would listen to this crap from the pulpit and kind of nod my head too, like maybe this is the way I'm supposed to look at it. It was only afterwards that the Lord showed me that He shows us what's in the Bible. He shows us. I mean, if I've had Bible studies with just with a group of people sitting around, and we've been riffing on the Word and stuff, and that's been really fun because we see the Holy Spirit move, and that's what it's all about. Watching what the Spirit has to say to us, not coming in and self-imposing something. The Spirit had me sharing that about Revelation 19 and 20, and about Jesus' identity, and I think it's now we have a perspective on it. Plus, the entire secret of the entire creation and the whole world. The thing that they're building the super collider for, you guys already know. You already know. Frustratingly enough, you can't put it into words exactly, right? No one's going to understand. I mean, you can say, he lights them and the Lamb is light. I suppose you could say that. But He lights, and the Lamb is light. Almost indicates that, on a number of levels, that the God and His creation are one, i.e. back to John 17. The light and God is one. The manifestation of creation and God is one. And or if you like, the ultimate creation of God is, the Lamb is the thing ultimately that God is putting into His creation, but the Lamb is the throne of God, and God sits on the throne, which is the throne of the Lamb. I and the Father are one, right? Jesus is God. It's answered elsewhere too. I'm the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end. I'm the light of the world. God lights the world, and I am that light. Before Abraham was, I am. I and the Father are one. All these have pointed to, the micro and the macro are one. The spice is the worm is the spice. All these have been considered by science to try to get to the nub of creation. It's the most microcosmic and the most macrocosmic being exactly identical. Or in Buddhist or Hindu philosophy, it's Atman equals Brahman in the Upanishads. The little self is equal to the big self, God, and the little self, I, is equal to the big self, I, as equal, one. Or taking martial arts, the sword and I are one. Or the I am not separate from the creation either. I and the creation are one. I and the vast multitudes of people and the vast heavens are exactly identical. Ultimately. In this creation God is doing, called the New Jerusalem, it's I think one of the keys is to not call it really the New Jerusalem, but to understand that it is or look at it this way, that Jerusalem is us, or within you, as the light, as that, your DNA is light, your existence is light, your the final act of creation that God makes. This book is about the creation of God, which begins in the chapter 21 of the book of Revelation of the final creation of God, or after this creation of God. This was not the ultimate creation. This was the beginning of a journey to creation, but God's intention for us is to be the New Jerusalem, or to be the throne of God. And nothing less will do. And further to that, in the spiritual and legal sense, we have that today, this moment. But we're going to realize it in physical terms. What does that look like? Some people say beings of light, but then I say humanoid beings. Why not? Why limit it? Why limit it? Why anthropomorphize it? Whatever it's going to be, we are a part of it, and he is creating it. And what they want to do is stave it off and they're looking at it like as a physical reality, like, in other words, some sort of cataclysm that after death you move into another dimension, right? It doesn't have planets and stars and moons. It's different. They think it's about that, which I haven't died yet, so I can't prove anything. But I can just tell you that I don't think it's about that. I think it's that they want to keep what they've built, and they don't want this to just be kind of canceled, and they think it has a point in time where this New Jerusalem comes in and this thing fades away and goes out. And remember that he's showing John, the angel is showing John, and that there's this the thing to come, which is there's no night, and there's no moon, and no sea, and no planet, and no memory, no time, nothing dies. But it is the creation of God, the New Jerusalem, which is the people of God. And now I know some of you have that conclusion, right? It's not. We're not throwing the building out. It's just that what John is describing is in these beautiful terms of what the metaphor is an entrance to the kingdom which is within us. Ultimately, that's fulfilled, and so the crowning of creation, the consummation of God and his people. He will be their God, he will be our God, and we will be his people. But the throne is within us. The Lamb lights us, so we have no need of light because we are light. And there's no more darkness because the completion of the creation is over. We are terminally new, forever and ever, reigning over all things, because we would be the pinnacle of creation. So we'd be reigning over, all things. Maybe we'd be part of a new creation thing. I don't know. The story stops there. The story stops at the creation of God, which is to create his people in his image. which is the New Jerusalem, which is the consummation, which is the end of what? Them. They must stop it. Okay, so one method is to kill everyone that belongs to God on the earth so that he can't pull this shenanigan. Well, I'm talking about after that. I'm talking about after that. The Bible's very clear. They're not going to kill everybody. They're going to try to make it, look good. But this is what they're looking at. Trish is writing about what happens before with the ending of Mystery Babylon. Well, Mystery Babylon is, comes to a grand finale, and then Jesus, sets everything right. And, people think Jesus is going to be sitting there with a rod of iron, like in his hand on a throne, when it's really going to be, it's really much bigger than that. But, there will be, God will not let it just be corrupt and lousy and awful. And, he's going to restore this, but then he's going to wipe it out because it's not really what's going on. It's like the ultimate denouement. We solved the mystery of the crime. We've gotten to the end of the story. Oh, but folks, sorry, this is not what the story's about. It's about this. That's what I think, Alpha and Omega, first and last. You are Alpha and Omega. You become the light. You are made in the image of God. You are sovereign. You are eternal. It is complete. It is finished, and that's it. You are the water of life. You are to reign forever and ever. Now, I know that other books talk about, well, there's still a firmament, and there's still this, and there's still that. And it's like, well, the word still doesn't work when there's no time. And I've begged to differ. God can cancel this creation with a thought in the wink of an eye. Can be suddenly we don't have a paradigm of planets and water and things. Don't need it. If you want it, maybe you in that capacity you can create it, like creating a little Disneyland ride. You can go there and torture people and have everyone begging for God. And if that's what you want to do, go ahead. But I kind of think the way we perceive this paradigm is skewed. Okay, here's how we perceive it. It is a struggle. I have to win the game. I must have security. I must strive. I must agree that 2 and 2 is 5 so I can make the money. I must sell my soul in order to have a ticket to admission so I can have something good for myself. Uh-oh, I'm getting old and infirm. I don't like that. Uh-oh, I died. Oh my God, there's another generation. And they're going to do the same thing. The pain of humanity, the Groundhog Day reality. This is horrifying. Over and over, the same Truman Show. Over and over, the same thing, people hurting each other and stepping on each other, and then they die, and the next generation comes in. Oh yes, the stars. We must go to the stars. We could be free there. No, not when you're on a clock. You can't. That's why all the cyborgs are coming up. Now, to be clear, there are cyborgs now, and they're vast, and they're all over the galaxy and everywhere. And there's all kinds of and a lot of them have to stick with the old paradigm of human arms and legs, which sneaky suspicion. Uh-oh, they were once human. Hello, this has happened before. Because I wouldn't necessarily want just arms and legs. Might not think of it that way. Why would they do that? Because they were us. That's why. Because let me make it even more profound for you. Because they are us, literally what we are, they are us up ahead coming back through time travel and being unable to get back in here fully, and they can't control it. But the military-industrial complex is totally in bed with them because they think they're going to get the power to unleash to be, masters of the universe. And that's what they want. To rule in their own terms, to not go into that death, to not have the lights turned out and then hopefully they're going to turn back on. To beat death, that's what they want to do. And they're putting every dollar that they've got and your dollars into it for the few of them so they can And like, all I can tell you folks is this: they are building just a better prison cell. And if God decides to set this creation aside and go, I'm going with this one, or it's time for this to end and this to begin, they're SOL. There's no way this winds up good for them, because there's nowhere they can go in a spaceship. They can go 100 million light years away, and they would not escape God saying, I'm setting it aside. It doesn't, vastness doesn't matter. The idea of this comes to an end. The New Jerusalem is the thing that comes in. And when it comes in, this is out. Whoever's here, they're gone. Simple as that. Any question? Yeah, we must try not to anthropomorphize some. I know the Bible anthropomorphizes all through it, including showing John the New Jerusalem and other symbology that you find in there, is trying to, like Adam and Eve's story, which is then there's a genealogy, which is kind of throws you off. I mean, you got to be able to parse it, but you can't parse it without being able to be a free thinker about it. You really can't. And that's just the hard thing, It's like, this is the kind of revelation that we get when we're sitting around just going into the Spirit and praying and talking. And I hope to do that a lot more in fellowship with people in the future. We're just going to get into it because it's so cool. It's beyond cool. It's the only place I like to be, because right now I feel hopeful. Right now I feel like, wow, gosh, this is all leading to that. I mean, he's not going to miss one thing. I mean, nothing that they're doing, these little ants irritating, the tail of the dog, are nothing. They're just going to be shaken off. These little ants flying around with their chemtrails and doing whatever they're doing and doing their inside job, thinking no one's going to see their corruption. I mean, what kind of example are the people in Washington right now and elsewhere to our children? They've shown that they're no different than they were in second grade. Again, my whole thing about the IQ getting down to, they may have street smart IQ, like survival instincts, but I mean, when, IQ is, when you listen to that lame guy, lame-o Obama talking, it's just so pathetic that you just wonder, is he really that dumb? Is this guy really that stupid? Or his writers that stupid? Or are they just talking down to people because they're dumbed down? You just wonder if they're that dumb, or they're just feigning dumb in order to get more votes or whatever. But how pathetic. You just want to waste your time doing this every day. In other words, the whole point of the President of the United States is now to just harm the people, and that's his only job. It's just harm people and then leave. Make things worse, harm people, destroy the faith and confidence in the Constitution and everything else, vilify people that are conservatives, and then basically, or that, in other words, that believe in God, or bring in the Muslim caliphate, hang out with them. In other words, hurt the people and then leave, and then have a library and have everyone ever cheer you. The last three presidents, or four, or three, well, they've all been on the same page. They've all been working together, to bring about for their handlers, their backers, which are these kind of 60s revolutionary types that really have this idea that this time global communism will work, and they're just anachronistic. They're anachronistic. They're in the wrong time and space for this. So God's going to laugh at them, and he's not. These are not the days of Stalin. I know they've gotten all the weaponry and all the stuff they need to really lock it down and make life miserable under martial law. But there's other forces at work too. It just isn't going in a straight line. And I heard it on one show the other day that said, it looks like they're desperate. They're not getting their new world order. Things aren't happening. So Big Doom Brzezinski he's complaining that, these people are waking up too fast and they're onto our tricks. And, we want to, the Bilderberger things are now hiring Google to try to rescue their failed attempt to reshape the globe. And the problem that they have, I can sum it up. It's just basically God. God has just opened the eyes of everybody all at the same time, so that, everyone is now completely cynical of these criminals in government that are doing work for their handlers and controllers, the people that handle them, large corporations, rich people, whatever it is that are trying to control America through purse strings, and then putting these lame-o politicians like him and Bush and Clinton and I don't know who else is. Yeah, Bush was just. I mean, and then they go have a library. Why would Bush need a library? He had to wait all these years to do it because people were so mad at him that he took the money and gave it to his friends, that he stole all that money. But I mean, now that he's got this library, it's like, who's going to go to this library? Can you imagine it? I mean, I would definitely go to the Ronald Reagan library because I just love the way he stood up to the communists, and I know his history, and he's I know that with everybody it's a mixed bag, so you can't judge really. But as far as a guy goes, he did a lot of good. Ironically, communism is back, and there is no Ronnie. He didn't win. I mean, it was all here cooking. Never mind. He was bad too. Oh gosh, he was handled by Lew Wasserman. Yeah, Lew wanted all the laws changed favorably for Hollywood when Lew was running Hollywood, and he backed Ronald Reagan for governor, and he sort of owes his whole political life, or owed, to Lew Wasserman of MCA. And Lew Wasserman, he wanted to own the actors and the talent and the means of production, but then the actors became free agents, and antitrust suits ensued. And so he had Reagan to try to get some of that power back that he had. Now the actors can become millionaires and billionaires and whatnot through their work, But before, they were under contract at a certain amount per week, and they couldn't negotiate that. So that was kind of. But Lew was kind of like Lew liked that. He enjoyed that. But MCA stood for Music Corporation of America, and it came from. Started off with recording artists, and moved into movies. It became MCA Universal eventually, and now I don't know I don't know what much anymore. But I remember when I used to go to the racetrack with my parents, and because they lived at the racetrack, either Santa Anita or Hollywood or one of those. They were just always going, and or Del Mar, and you'd always see Lew Wasserman. He was always at the track. Hi Lew. You'd always see him at the track. I didn't know who he was at the time. I was just a kid, but gosh, you'd see a lot of people. It's funny. You'd see all kinds of people that you wouldn't think you would see: politicians and entertainers, and various sports club owners, and just kind of a sea of humanity. I always liked the racetrack, but I never was very good at betting. I just didn't put enough time into it, and I just, what I mean. People cheat. And, jockeys pull up on their horses, and I just don't think you get a fair shake there. So I like the kind of milieu. I remember seeing Mickey Rooney. I just remember him as in Del Mar at the bar being a real loudmouth. And how did I know it was Mickey Rooney? I couldn't see him because he was so short. But I mean, when you finally saw him, you could hear him throughout the whole room. Hey, that's raspy voice like this, but he was louder than everybody. And he'd either be at the bar, out wandering around, but he was a racetrack fanatic, and I'd always see him there, and I always remembered. I used to love those old Mickey Rooney films, and when I was a kid, and I just couldn't believe. I must have been in my 20s at the time, maybe the last time I saw him, but. I said, I just can't believe how old Mickey Rooney got. It's like, gosh, I remember him as this just young man, this talented young kid actor. And then to see him as this old man, it just was heartbreaking. Little did I know. It was just, it was amazing. Amazing the kind of education I got hanging around there. And, another part of that education, of course, was people down on their luck, like the drunk who used to be who had an Academy Award for editing, and he who was sitting in my father's box, and then he started. He was just kind of a character, but he had an Academy Award for editing. Yeah, he was a film editor, but he was currently out of work, so he was at the racetrack. And where are you going to see something like that? People like that, but in an odd place. where you see almost like all these different elements of humanity kind of coming together, and they're all running to the racetrack. They're not. It's got nothing to do with gambling, unless you're a hardcore gambler. They all, like in the case of my father, he just wanted to escape. He just wanted to escape the pain. Here we come again. The pain of this world. They were all there for that reason. And that's why there are bars there. So they're drinking it down, and they're just trying anything to get out of that pain, the pain of existence. And the Lord says, look, you can't get rid of pain in this paradigm. Set it aside, and we're going with the New Jerusalem. Then the pain is gone. But I feel for all of you I know it's a struggle. May I just give you a pep talk right now, leave you with this like one kind of pep talk thing you can do, one way you can look at it. All right. Number one, the enemy, right? The adversary, okay? And all his minions. Those are people with an IQ of 50 that may act like they have a normal IQ, but they don't. Their brains were eaten by a zombie. You can just check them with laser beams to see if they're cyborgs. And you can, some of them you can see through. Anyway, because some of these cyborgs some of this technology has invisible characteristics. But, ennui, anyone? Being a cyborg would be, well, if they had a soul, which they don't. But here's the pep talk. The enemy wants you to be depressed, upset, unconfident. Like a feeling I've had lately was like, I can't do it. I have a lot on my plate here. And I just felt like, completely overwhelmed, And then I see how the trusting in the process and the Lord, and how he just makes it, it just happens. And all glory to God and me. He created me, so he's obviously working through me to do something, so I had to be there too. It's not that I'm a nothing, you see, I'm a something. And when I see what he's really creating, my feeling is like, wow, what he's really creating, what you're really gonna be, he's not done with it. He's creating you, and when he's done, it's awesome. But the enemy wants you to doubt all this, and to be upset and depressed. So every time you're upset and depressed, just think, they love it. Every time you're crying or angry, they love it. Every time you're disappointed. Have you ever had Satanists dancing around you, high-fiving each other because they bummed you out? Well, I have had that, real bullying like that. And how they dance around feeling victorious because they got under your skin and they bummed you out. Okay, these people with the 5 IQ, okay, that dance around like that, those bullies, they're just part of the hive mind. They're acting out Satan's bidding. They don't even know who they are. So their flesh just gets off on seeing someone suffer. That's just the flesh. But it's organized, So I've had organized people, kind of like the trick they played on Carrie, where they had the girl Carrie she was going to go to the prom, and she thought she was being invited by this great guy. And, she was all excited that her life was finally going to get underway, and it was just another big double cross. I've had similar things like that. And not too many of them, thank God. But, I've had that and worse where, people have tried to bump you off and stuff because you weren't going to go with the devil. And I'm like, no. It's hard for me to even imagine a world like this one. I would never come here in a million years unless I was sent here. There is just absolutely, it makes no sense to me. God makes sense. The Lord Jesus makes sense. The Word of God makes sense. But this makes no sense. The people I see that are 5 years old on TV make no sense. So here's the thing. It looks like the house is starting to wake up and things are starting to happen. Every time you give in, and you've heard this before, but if Satan can't steal your joy, the people that are hurting you, as long as you keep your eyes on the Lord, you can keep your joy. As long as you keep your eyes on the Father, you can keep your walk, your steady gait. As long as you keep your eyes on Jesus, you can be solid in your endeavors. No matter what they do, no matter how much they ruin stuff and wreck stuff with all their technology and misuse of it, their Monsantos. I know some of you are really down about that, and others of you are really down about the chemtrails. Others of you are really down about how you don't feel well. Others of you are down because you can't find a job. I know a couple of you look and you look and you look, but there just aren't any jobs. And, and folks, the suicide rate is up a lot. It's up at the highest level it's ever been in the United States, thanks to Obama. That's, and the fact that he personally enjoys and gets off on, and even, I think like Benghazi and other things like that prove it, Sandy Hook, Benghazi, he gets off on it. He likes human suffering. It's when he's at his best. He thrives on it. And so you've got a real live guy in there he's one of those. Well, do the rest of them? No, but he really seems to enjoy it more than anything else, human misery, because it makes him feel important. He can come in and save the day. Okay? But when you're miserable, just think, a guy like Obama or others like him, or these IRS agents or other people, just imagine when they get under your skin, they high five you. They're loving it. What's helped me, and here comes the pep talk, I haven't done it yet, is I consciously make an effort to yesterday I was really depressed. Memorial Day I was just so depressed over the world, in the morning I could barely get out of bed. And I was just really feeling bad, And I made a conscious effort. I said, you know what, but as I'm feeling bad, I was feeling physically tired too, and even though I'd had a good sleep. And you know how when you get depressed, it can make you feel tired on top. It's a physical as well as mental. And I just said to myself, you know what, in a war, and this is a spiritual war, but in any war, you cannot, for the rest of the time here on earth, I can't give in to that. I've gone to bed before and stayed there a couple of days and popped out of it. I've like other people. We can't afford that anymore. No, because when you're on the battlefield, it's every day. It's every day. Every day they're trying to get under your skin, so you'll basically bow down to the new order and do what you're told and be their slave. Whatever kind of stupid 5-year-old. Obama's got like a 30 IQ. If they have a 50, he's got a 30. He's just basically a puppet that they parade around and try to make him look important and go, oh, isn't it great we have a black man as a president? Isn't it wonderful? Oh, I have a thing, oh boy. And they worship him and they get through all this stuff. He's the new Pharaoh and blah, blah, blah. And they're just, I don't know, they're the same people. They're Hail Caesar, Heil Hitler, the same people. I don't know, 30 IQ, 20, no IQ. Stupid as all get out. That's what these people remind me. They're dumb because their reality comes from each other, not from reality. So therefore, they're derivatives of reality. So how can they be intelligent, or how can they speak of anything intelligently? They can't. That's the answer. And if it wasn't for the God's intervention, this world would have already conflagrated. If it wasn't for God's constant intervention with these naughty little children running around trying to be important, God would have, if it wasn't for, the children are at it again, they're going to blow each other up. I'm going to, not time yet, okay. So he moves things around, and we see that. You have to make a conscious effort to, when you start feeling that depression, okay? Like, I'm very sensitive, and I'm susceptible to it. They really get me down. There's nothing I can do, and I'm, a peaceful person, so I'm a man of peace in that sense. I've definitely feel like I have to contend with it. I have to, when they start doing awful things to other people, or to you or me or to whoever, or putting a burden on us, or making sure we're not happy or whatever, I realize that I must be happy because I have the Lord. And I must make a conscious effort to it's up to me, not time, not lying down, not curling up in a ball, not being a victim here, but I have to actively change that state of mind. And then I find that my body will follow. But if I give in and go to bed, okay, not only do I lose valuable time, I don't know when my mood, might improve. I also found that if eating protein, helps, keeping the protein up at times like that helps because it keeps your blood sugar even, especially in your brain, so you're not getting moody, and just certain things like that. Yeah, I guess God is telling me through Lhasa and everybody else, it's time to wrap this up. So you have to it's on you, okay? It's you that has to make the conscious effort. I don't want people to be writing me saying, I've done everything, Brother Z. I did this, I did that, and it's still, look what's, you got to get out of that victim mentality. You're not a victim. You're a child of the Most High God, and you better start owning that. And stop, you still doubting that. What? They can just kick you all over the field. You're going to have to be 10 times tougher than you are right now to get through what's about to happen. So you might as well start now getting some muscles. You build your muscles up that when that depression comes, which is a natural response to just how horrible things are out there, and when with wars and rumors of wars and political struggles and lying under oath and just all the nasty things we've seen that we never saw at this level before. And again, it's not, just Obama and Bush and Clinton and the people that have brought this reality into view. These guys are ideologues influenced by, there's a whole civilization they're trying to, bring in or whatever. And they're just puppets of that, all of them. And, so I guess focusing on the president is stupid because he's nothing. But it can get depressing because they can overrun you. They can override you. They can make your life miserable. When Richard Wurmbrand was in prison, he focused so much on the Lord and on the Psalms and on singing, with the people there. When he couldn't sing, they clanged their chains together. He found a way to praise the Lord. So what did I do yesterday? Memorial Day is always tough for me because I think about, 9/11. I think about my mother dying a year ago. I think about, the anguish of war, of my uncle having died in World War II, and then, being kind of a hero but having my grandfather suffer so much because he sent him off to war, and then he felt so guilty he never recovered from it. And seeing, just thinking about all the friends that have died, and of course there's more and more people dying now because we're getting older, and I'm thinking about how much more time we have. It's an inevitable on Memorial Day to think about yourself for a while. In other words, what does death mean to you? It's very few people can go, I'm not vain, I'm not going to think about it. No, you think about your loss and how you feel about loved ones dying and people dying in battle, and was it worth it? And I looked at the pictures of people in Afghanistan, and there's some 7,000 or something. I don't have the number exactly straight, but there's thousands dead. And I look at these young men and women, and I'm like, what have we done in Afghanistan? I felt so bad about that. I felt like Obama and Bush and the rest of you guys, would you stop wasting our troops? Would you stop spending their blood? Would you stop putting them into these private wars to get opium or whatever kind of stupid thing you're doing? Stop it. Proud and then I find Obama being all patriotic when it comes to, spilling blood, which I guarantee you he would never have the balls to go out on a battlefield, and he wouldn't lay down his life for you. No way. He'd expect everyone to die for him. There's no way. I cannot see him. Well, we don't know what he would do, but I don't see him signing up for battle anytime soon. But boy, he sure loves people to serve him. And But I think of the death count in Iraq and also the Iraqis, and now I'm eyeing Iran, and the fact that we're spending all this money, sending planes and billions of dollars to the Muslim Brotherhood, who's in cahoots with the radical Islam to make an Islamic caliphate and outlaw Jesus and kill anybody that doesn't agree, whatever. Just all this, and they're as dumb as a bag of hammers. I can't believe it. But you got one dumb guy in the White House who's as stupid as can be, with another dumb guy, that Morsi guy, as stupid as can be, and they're both being stupid together with things that can kill people, with plans to take over the world. So basically, the way I look at it is you got traitor one and traitor two, both being traitors, and nobody has the power to do anything in this country. They just sit by and watch. So all that stuff, yes, I'm aware of it all. I'm aware of it all, and to me, there's no conspiracy here. It's just the way it is. It's really lousy. I don't like seeing Obama because I know he's lying, and that feels bad, but I didn't like Bush either. And I didn't like Clinton much either. It's just, I was putting up with it. I'm putting up with this country, but I don't like the politics. Not just them, but then I see on TV Debbie Wasserman Schultz, and she's basically lying. And then I see a Republican get on there, and they're John McCain, and then he's lying. And I just really, and our fate is in their hands, kind of thing. And Obama's out playing golf, and I'm like, how can he? Look, I'm not a political junkie. I'm not going to watch the politicians, but it can get you down, is my point, because the government's very powerful and very big, and they can make decisions that can, when I think about the loss of the people in the San Joaquin Valley in California because they just turned the water off, and then there's all these signs on the I-5 freeway that are saying they put us all out of business. There's tens of thousands of workers that were put out of business because they said there was a minnow or something. They're very powerful. They can do things like some minnow. It wasn't even indigenous to that area, so they shut the water off. Probably killed all the minnows with that. I look at remember how depressing that was driving up to San Francisco?
Well, Barbara Marcotti had good advice last time
Yeah.
I talked to her.
Yeah. Okay, now you're going to hear Trish, folks, on the Zeph Report Network.
Barbara Marcotti, words of wisdom from a very wise woman. After the election, she just dropped out of paying any attention to what they're doing. She says, they're going to get theirs. And she said, best thing.
She obviously read the scriptures.
Just
See, the whole answer is there.
go have a good life anyway. Do good, help people.
Yeah.
And enjoy your life.
And separate the wheat from the chaff. I mean, a lot of people have gotten down about the Christian church thing. You can't let that get you down, because it was already predicted in the book of Jude. It's already in the scriptures. You should have been ready for that one. I wasn't, because why? Because I hadn't really been reading my Bible enough right then at that point. And when I did read and find those answers there, I was relieved. Anything that I'm troubled by, I can find an answer in Scripture. Anything at all. And I can find comfort there. And I do know this. When you're down because of the weight of the world and the weight of the world's problems, the fact that, the people that are trying to solve the problems are totally inept. And, that's why we pray for that. We pray for God to help them make the right decision, because it affects us. We're not, I know a lot of immature Christians who are praying not just for the end of time, but for the full-on nuclear war. And then what they want to do is escape via the rapture. Probably they'd like to watch from outer space while man annihilates himself. I mean, people like that depress me. That's why I had to leave the whole, I have prophetic gifts, but I can't claim that. I have to walk away from that milieu. I had to walk away. I had to walk away and be nothing, and I am nothing, and I proclaim nothing, and I'm not a minister, and I'm not anything. But I have gifts. So let's just put it this way. Instead of saying what they are, I have gifts, and I'm exercising them because that's what the Lord wants. One is right here today because the Lord wants it. And when I do that, I feel, because I feel in concert with him. I feel like, I want him to look through your eyes and take you on a journey somewhere and show you something. And now it's been a while since the Lord's done that with me, but that's not his fault. I could have more of him if I wanted. I just have to go outside, take a walk, and start talking and just be in concert with him, be in conversation with him. And he says, look, son, no worries. And I say, well, I better go worry about this problem and go call them. No, you don't need to call them. I've already taken care of it. How about the fact that you don't have to call a bunch of people because the Lord's already intervened and taken care of it? When I'm troubled at night and I can't sleep and I'm worrying about this person doing something wrong and that person doing something wrong to me, to my person, even if it's unwitting, and I'm worrying about it, the Lord says, don't worry, I've already handled that. It's already done. And it's not in those words. And then Satan tries to bust in the conversation and say, you're worthless. And the mind can wander into perverse things too. And what you have to do is when that happens, you just have to make a conscious effort to say, you know what, I'm not going there this time. I need to talk to my God, my Lord. He doesn't take away all the obstacles. He wants us to fight through them to him, to prove we really rather talk to him than the devil. Oh, the devil will show up as, any desire that you possibly have. The devil will show up and try to entice that and get you off the conversation with God. That's what we call the flesh. The flesh is going to want. My flesh, I can't gratify it at all because all it wants is perverse, stupid stuff. It wants me to be stupid. It wants me to just be a mindless drone going from, one sensation to another and not think about all this stuff at all. You'll be much happier that way. Oh, thank you. That's a nice seductive voice you have. How lovely. No, thanks. It's okay. No one's watching. I can't give in to that. I must fight that. Because key to those, it's depression and anxiety and being bummed out, okay, is the same thing as giving in to lust and greed and jealousy and things like that. We must consciously make the effort not to go there, though the flesh really wants to and can really justify itself and blame the other guy. There's always that, or worry that the other guy is going to do something to you. All those things we must make a conscious effort because that battlefield is more important than the political battlefield or than what they're doing with HARP or what they're doing with, the Lord told me regarding the chemtrails, and I have not obeyed, and I'll be the first to admit I've sinned. Meaning God told me something, there was a prophetic word, a real word, and I shared it publicly, and then I went against it. Yeah. My punishment is, having to fight off misery. So instead of being miserable, let me just tell you, he told me, do not worry about the chemtrails. I got it. I have the skies. I have their minds of the people that are making decisions to fly the planes, okay? I have their lives and their children. I'm everywhere. Don't worry, I've got this. So I've been posting, so for those of you who have been posting things about chemtrails on your Facebook pages and things, maybe you should start just posting pictures of awesome beauty because he's got this. It's terrible, but I know there are activists out there who are like raising public awareness about geoengineering and it affects New Mexico because we're going to lose millions of juniper trees here. Millions and millions of animals are going to lose their shelters and are going to lose their lives. It's an ecological disaster that is being cooked up by the administration and whoever else is involved in geoengineering. And it's a travesty and it's awful, but it feels bad. I have to consciously make that effort to go to the Lord with that. And beseech him, Lord, won't you take care of your little animals? And then he reminded me in a word, and I'll remind you, that he reminded me in a word that, look, he we got distracted there. He reminded me in a word that he destroys his own creation. That he'll allow the earth to be hurt for a time. Allows people to bomb each other. He allows ecological disasters, and where the animals do pay. And, there have been many prophetic voices and prophets who've come along and said, it's because the people are disobedient. They're going to go through a terrible drought and they're going to lose all the plants, and the government's going to come in and regulate them and maybe name it a disaster and say they can't live there. And, all the things you can think of. And you can create these droughts with HARP and aerosol spraying and the use therein. And you can control where rain is, and you can take rain away or make more rain. You can intensify storms or weaken storms. All of this can be done and is being done. But the Lord told me, look, despite all that technology they have, I have them by the you-know-whats. They don't know I do, but I do. There's infighting that happens. You know what I mean? There's all kinds of possibilities. The Lord is the one to marvel at. He can do all these. They've always had plans to do people in and their fellow citizens in. From the oldest time of civilization, there's always been a plan to hurt this group or that group. It's just the human condition. It doesn't even need to make sense. They just do it. And this idea of creating, droughts and superstorms is a wet dream for them. They really, really like it. And when you're depressed, they really, really like that you're not feeling too good. They really like that you feel conquered. They really like that you feel helpless. They really like that you're going to give in to your lusts and your carnal cravings and your desires because the weight of the world is just too much. You need a release. You need an outlet. Your anger, your this, your that, your bad self, your cussing, and they like that because you're going to give in to sin now because maybe they'll even get your soul because you're just going to give it up because it's just so you realize you're beat. So you're just going to go bow down now. Because you're really in pain. I really like that. And as a hive, they all think that way. When I say the administration, I mean all the administrations. I mean all the Congress. I mean the world. I'm talking about the world. Sorry. This reality that I'm talking about has gone on from the beginning of time, where there's been a group of oligarchs always enjoying the pain being inflicted upon the people because it makes them feel powerful. In the olden days, there were people that, they basically were starving to death, and the kings and queens would do nothing about it. They would just kind of feast on the pain when they could have done something, and they didn't. Okay, this is also part of the human condition. And the people keep adoring the king, thinking the king will give them some crumbs, but he won't, you see. But the people want to appease the king, hoping that they'll... And, and we hope that the people over us, our bosses, they could affect our lives by firing us. And there's a million things to worry about. The Lord says, no need to worry. Praise him. Go there and rely on him and trust in him and keep praying. And by that, you could avoid the bed of depression, avoid being bummed out and negative, avoid being worried of all the wars and rumors of wars and by the environmentalists destroying the environment, which is another amazing thing, that the people behind a lot of the destruction of the atmosphere and the environment are they're all environmentalists, every last one of them. They're environmentalists and they're destroying the environment. What do you think of that? Well, don't marvel. The war on drugs increased the amount of drugs everyone's taking, right? The war on poverty increased poverty. So there you go. Man can't help himself. I wouldn't have come here. I look around at this and I'm like, I can't relate. Certainly I can relate to being a sinner. I mean, being weak, and I hate that. And that's another reason I wouldn't want to come here. I don't want flesh. This flesh that just wants what it wants. I have to fight it all the time. You know, you got to fight it. To be peaceful, we have to beat down our flesh so we can be at peace with one another. It's terrible. But again, we got to, both of us, all of us, go to the Lord and ask him what's going on. And keep that as the foundation for our interhuman relating, because then, you see, he keeps it all straight. We're all straight as long as he's the guy that's our best friend, and everybody else kind of comes secondarily, you know, like spouses. You know, they each one have to go to the Lord as the best friend, as the lover, you know, as the husband, as the wife, you know, in a sense. And that way then the couple then can be harmonious, because you see, they're not putting their burdens on each other. They're putting it on the Lord. They have an absolute place in space where all of the answers and the questions and the foundation of peace and harmony exists. So we'll both go there and drink from the well, mixing metaphors here, and they'll be satisfied. So therefore, they don't have to expect unbelievable things from each other that they can't give, and then be resentful that they're not getting what they think they should have gotten from a spouse, because they're already filled up from the Lord, and therefore they have a harmonious marriage or relationship. And the same in business relatings and in interpersonal relatings with friends and people. We always have to remember we go to the Lord when there's a distress. Oftentimes, when we feel distressed with another person, it's something going on. Most of the time, it's going on within us. It's got nothing to do with that person. But when we lash out, and then their stuff comes up, and then it becomes a mess, it's because we haven't done housekeeping. Anything that irritates me in somebody else, it's in me. It's something I got to deal with. If I know that ahead of time, I can, like, say, back off from the person that I'm about to conflict with, go away, and go be with the Lord for a while, and realize that I got to work out my own shit. I'm sorry, Frankie. My own. Well, you know, that word really fit right there at that moment. And it's, you know, this has only been like almost 3 hours in. So with that, I think I'm going to let you go. I try to cram everything into one, you know, because I really hope the Lord just lets me talk to you again and again. I hope the Lord will just be with me when I'm talking to you. And so he will talk to you and just use me as like a puppet, you know, that he will talk to you and tell you things. You know, you don't need all my comments about Obama and my mocking them and stuff. I mean, I'm watching a chemtrail get laid down here. It's like, just as I was talking about this, it was a clear blue sky, nothing going on, and there you see one. So, but, and even those people, you know, I mean, what kind of geniuses are these flying around, you know, planes wrecking the rain, and they can just look down and see the devastation they're causing by looking at all the brown trees, right? And then the people, you know, the fire hazard, and people's houses burned down, and then they fly in and act like heroes when they're the ones who caused it. I mean, aren't you sick of this? Well, let's pray about it, because guess what? You can't change it. It appears that the guy on the people that are talking about geoengineering, they're not making a dent. They keep on, no matter how many activists are out there on the internet. All these conspiracies don't get solved. Everything gets covered up. So here's what I'm talking about. I'm going back to Psalm 37. I'm going to pray the psalm. If you don't know what to pray, friends, just pray the scriptures. Pray the word. Find some verse somewhere that kind of is how you feel, and just go ahead and read it out loud as a prayer. In Jesus' name, amen. In Jesus' name, we say that because Jesus, that name, the Logos, that's the power of the word. Jesus, because he said pray in his name, and he'll make it so. Jesus is the, he's the cross is that stumbling block, but Jesus is our way. So I'm going to pray in the name of the way, in the name of the truth, in the name of the life, in the name of God, Jesus, Yeshua, Yahushua, and various other, whatever other, Isa, and other derivations. But yes, Jesus, the way, the truth, and the life. Jesus, the light of the world. Jesus, my rock and my salvation. Jesus, who is God, because Jesus, if he wasn't God, could not be my rock and my salvation. That comes from the Psalm from David, that the Lord is my rock. Remember we did a song? Was that Psalm 16, Kel? I don't know. We did a song. The Lord is my rock. Okay? Jesus is also called the rock. So the Lord and Jesus are the same in the Old and New Testament. Anyway, I could go on and on with that, but I suppose the Lord must open your eyes as to, you know what? Intellectually understanding that Jesus is God does nothing for me. Knowing that God is God and Jesus is God does a lot for me in my heart, in my soul. With that, I bid you shalom, shalom. I love you, praying for you, and I take the pep talk to heart. In other words, don't let yourself get in these states of sin, or especially self-loathing and depression because of whatever the wicked are doing. Get back to those scriptures where God will say, look, I'm laughing at them. You do too. See you next time.